I'd like to show you something.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm
You have to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky?
How's it going, everybody? How are you all doing? Thank you for your patience and most definitely your time, your valuable time, might I add. Thank you. Welcome to the 88th episode of Toxic Tuesday. Holy shit, 88. I'm feeling lucky about this one. I think it's safe to say you all are feeling lucky about it too. We're going to bang through some names and then we're going to bring in the banging dudes in here. What's up, Grim, Void King, Carl Anderson, Anonymous Gamer, John Capola, Deleted Scenes, Mecca J, Elizabeth Young, Max Mercer, David Glenn, Darth Viewer, Fat Elvis, Vince Womack, Juggalo, Deathcock. What's up, Juggalo? We went and saw Striper last week, and it was kick-ass. Just saying. Jonah Hex. What's up, Jonah? How you doing here? Gonzalo Bergali. What's up, man? Tina Bojan. Josh Post. Josiah Robinson. Tuna Guy. And Chris Molina. RJ Godzilla. Welcome, all of you, to Toxic Tuesday. I've been waiting to talk about this one for a while. Many, many moons back. I think it was like a year ago, maybe 13, 14, 15 months ago. We did the first Dirty Harry movie, aptly just titled Dirty Harry. And it's now time that we come back and revisit Mr. Eastwood. And this won't be the last time because, there will be a future where there's the Heartbreak Ridges of the world that need to be discussed as well. But this movie, like the first Dirty Harry, like the first Death Wish, has a lot of great conversation around it, not just from the movie of the greatness or even the toxicity or lack thereof, but more so the political, social aspects, especially during the 70s. I know guys like my boy Mark D with the C are very big history buffs. We're going to have a lot of great conversation. This whole thing on guns, fascists, commie, the left-right mentality of that time where everything and anyone was political simply by breathing and existing. And this was also Clint Eastwood's favorite Dirty Harry movie, might I add. So let's get ready to talk some Magnum Force. And let's bring in our panel here. We'll start off with Mr. Mead himself. How are you, Tom? I know we've had quite the day here, but glad to have you here despite all things.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Hopefully you're having a good time. I'm going to make your day today.
Ooh.
Man's got to know his limitations.
Oh, man. Well, with me, the sky's the limit. So, just saying, Tom. I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad. I'm excited to talk about this one tonight. And that video you sent, yeah, that's going to be a topic of conversation. I wouldn't be surprised if that goes anywhere between 5 minutes and forever. But I'm glad you showed me it. Definitely gave me some stuff to think about. There are some parts I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. It left me in a big bag of crazy. But I'm glad we're gonna touch all that. So glad to have you here, Tom. Thankfully, you could take the time to still do this amongst your mad crazy schedule. And then there's the man who is keto simple, and he goes by Dustin.
Oh, I think you've misjudged me. This was good, and I got to give a shout out to Tom too, because he sent that YouTube video at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I watched it at like 6:30, and I was like, "What's happening?"
Well, what everybody's talking about is it's actually just a documentary that was on the old DVD and Blu-ray of the movie, but it's just funny because it was made in like 2008, and it's very poignant to today.
Oh,
It's
100.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really till they pointed that out that I even like made the connected the dots with the movies, because like with these kind of like with older movies, I was watching it and was more like just enjoying it as an old flick and not putting like a lot of political shit on it, And then when I saw that, I'm like, oh wait, we've got a lot more to talk about than I thought.
Yeah, because this movie is very much a compliment on the criticism of the first film. So we'll get deep into that and how polarizing politically both films were, or actually all four of the early Dirty Harry films. The fifth one's kind of an exception. It's just kind of a straightforward action flick with no real political messaging involved. But the first four definitely did.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, there's a whole lot of stuff with this one. Now I'm like, okay, I could see the contrast of this one to the first one and what they're trying to do. It definitely is a reaction, but we're gonna save those thoughts and reactions, bring out our boys. But glad to have you here, Dustin. We're gonna ready to move forward, and we got our red shirt here. How are you, red shirt?
Hey, I'm good, Nick Weiser. Thank you very much, as always, gentlemen. Dustin, Tom, this is awesome. I have to agree with John Milius from the commentary on this. I have the Blu-ray of all of the Dirty Harry movies, and by the way, the documentary that Tom sent us all is still on the extras of the Blu-rays, and it is worth your time if you go to the extras, and it's actually on the disc for this movie. Magnum Force. So no, but I agree with John Milius, and I know he was blowing his own horn in his commentary, or in the I don't know which one it was, but this really is an amazing sequel to the first Dirty Harry movie, because it's not more of the same. It flips the whole opponent of the whole.
It flips the script.
It flips the script on Harry Callahan in a way that leaves most of the critics of the first movie out in left field going, wait, what? And we're going to get into that, because that is a lot of fun with this movie, because this movie just puts the lie, as you said, this is complimentary to the reviews of the first movie. This is practically an answer to the reviews of the first movie.
It's a yang to the yin. It's a yang to yin. They really do. There's definitely a duality between the two. They balance each other out. They really do.
And what that does for the character of Harry Callahan, and I'll stop after this and we'll get into it, is it just shows that he's a lot more well-defined and focused character than almost all the liberal critics gave him credit for when they reviewed the first movie. They saw him as their stereotype of a certain person. And in this movie, he absolutely puts the lie to that stereotype.
No, facts, my friend. Yeah, I agree. We'll get to that. We're gonna bring in our two boys here. Start off with the man who makes the show look really nice and pretty and visually stunning, Mr. Mark D with a C.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here, sir.
Great
you succeed and then some.
Hey everyone, yeah. So I hope if anyone had ketchup on their hot dogs tonight, please leave the chat. Go away. No, that's okay. But yeah, please don't put any ketchup on
And
your
this
hot
one, he
dogs
knows
around
a
here.
good burger place, not a hot dog stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was waiting for him to grab a hot dog in the airport. Yeah.
Which is funny because in one of the documentaries that Red Shirt was talking about, in the first movie, they got Schwarzenegger on one of them. And you can tell he's mixing the two movies together because he's like, one of my favorite scenes is when he's coming out with a hamburger and he's stopping the crime, and it's like he doesn't even stop eating his hamburger. He's just like, go ahead, make my day. Like, no, it wasn't that bad, but it was close.
Yeah. So this movie is plenty of classic, Dirty Harry lines and moments, and we're gonna have fun with this tonight. It's great to come again to a Dirty Harry movie. So we got 3 more to go. Eventually, I'm sure we'll get to all 5. But this is flips the script as Red Shirt said, and some of the critics, they didn't know what to do with this one. That's the problem. But we'll talk about it. But Dirty Harry is kind of like that white knight, that paladin, the lawful good cop, quote unquote, who's not going to cross that line to murder. But if you're a scumbucket, you're not going to get kid glove treatment either. So it's a lot to talk about this movie, and we're living through almost the same exact times again. History's repeating itself, where we're seeing a lot of the same exact things. And now we've got YouTube and social media and Twitter, and you're seeing a lot of these things, unfortunately on getting recorded by people that are can show what's happening in society, where you'd never see that before. So I mean, my Twitter feed is filled with things you really don't want to see. But and also sometimes people in America here, you can be armed. So sometimes people are trying to break the law, and they get the good news from, like, for example, I saw a gun shop owner today. It's an older video, but someone tried to run a gun shop, which maybe isn't too smart, and didn't end too well for that person. So it's but it's more, it's basically going through the same exact cycle now in the 70s, where they're letting justice reform and trying to be more kind to people, and let's reform the system, and let people out. And you ended up with a ton more crime in the 70s all the way to the 90s, until they changed a lot of the laws, and now we're seeing where they're trying to go back and do the same thing they did in the 60s and 70s again. So a lot to talk about. Yep.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. But we got another guy to bring on here, and then we got a super chat to acknowledge. But I'm glad to have you back. And as I promised, it would happen sooner, much rather than later. I made good on my word. Happy to have you, Bruce.
Nick, I appreciate this. From it just humbles me, and I thank you and the entire panel for having me here. I got a chance to watch this movie over the weekend, and I was I've only watched Dirty Harry and Deadpool, the 3 middle films.
Oh, wow!
So I've never seen
Interesting.
And then afterwards, after I watched that, the Magnum Force, I went to the IMDb page and started researching all the history and the trivia and all the things going on at the time. So I found myself in a nice little law enforcement kind of rabbit hole. And it reminded me of when I was doing my own Leo studies back in 2004, 5, and 6. And we were really at the bottom of the swing at that point, where they were trying to push reform. And the reformers really had a big chunk of power, and they were trying to, any child that could be converted, that could be rehabilitated, we'll throw them at the system, and maybe the system will fix them, and it just kind of made me smile that this is a circle that continuously happens, and we're involving crime and punishment in the legal system. So you see the people that are absolutists, they're like, no, give them the death penalty, no, put them in jail for life, and then you have these other people, the probation types, like, no, we have to give them another chance, we have to do it. And it's, slow down. This has been going on as long as time itself. And this movie, I do believe you guys have hit all the pertinent points I was going to talk about. But yeah, the more things change, the more, if you have a sense of history, sit back, just watch it. You know where it's at.
All right, awesome.
And the interesting thing is, oh, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No, I was going to say, just glad to have you here, Bruce. I appreciate you rejoining. And before Tom takes away, Jason Sandberg with a $2 says a man's got to know his limitations. Or in this case, he's Andy Sandberg, who's almost at 7K, I think.
Thought it was Andy Sandler.
Oh, yeah, Andy Sandler.
So confused anymore.
All right, Tom, go
What's
for
the
it.
water boy doing here?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, what Bruce is saying, and we'll get into it deeper anyway, so it don't really matter. But yeah, like, it's just funny that because I brought this question up to Andre, and I think this is gonna lead into one of our ESG videos in the future, with this movie being this and the first movie being a main point in the videos because of the way that the world was at that time. But we don't have a Dirty Harry right now. Mm-hmm. Notice that we have yet to get a Dirty Harry.
Oh yeah, no, we don't have one now.
And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get going. How we need a movie like this right now. It's bad.
I'm definitely like,
because this is the kind of thing that got us out of that shit, right? Because that's the beauty of this film. Because like you guys were saying, and I love that, is like all the critics of the first film didn't know what to fucking think of this one. Because they're like, wait a minute here, what you flipped the script on us now, and like he goes, okay, so you basically showed us this. You claimed we're fascist in the first movie. Well, we're going to show you what real fascists are.
So does that mean that Dirty Harry subverted expectations?
Absolutely.
I hate using that term in this sense, but yeah.
I think they stole that idea from Dirty Harry. They were so blown away and absolutely at a loss for words. They were like, we need to learn to do that, damn it.
Except he didn't get a job working for the ACLU, though, I have to say. So,
just give me a big favor.
But different expectations, Mark.
Yeah, I'm joking. I'm making it. Yeah.
I just don't want The Rock to be scheduled to do a reboot of Dirty Harry or a remake, because he is the death sentence for any franchise.
I said earlier on me that, like, from what we've seen of what he's given, obviously he works best on an ensemble cast, but I feel like he doesn't have the best scripts when he's the leading man to work with. So it's hard to note his true potential because, as I've said many times, even a great actor can only do so much with either a mediocre script or a downright terrible script. I've seen movies that are downright terrible, and I'm sure we all have. We can at least name a few movies each where we say this movie is terrible, but this actor was great in it. And that should tell you everything about what happens when even a great actor has its limits. Well, I'm just saying, could he be saved by better? Limitations. Could he be saved by a better script? Could he have like a Paul Verhoeven Total Recall story? Like, it's something that was a lot more coherent and fun and had good one-liners. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that he can't because he was so good at wrestling acting, but it's clear that what he's given with he's not looked any better than what they want to. And it doesn't help too that I don't know if he's someone who settles easy for just like take what you can get. Or does Hollywood have such a low expectation of the script? Like, oh, just throw The Rock's name in it. It doesn't matter if the script sucks. His name will draw in people alone. So it doesn't matter if the script sucks. So as long as we guys' names attached, it'll be fine type of thing. It's hard to figure out where it's at with that. Or maybe it's
would you say is The Rock's best movie?
Does he have a good movie? As far as leading man, leading man, I would go with either The Rundown or Walking Tall, the remake, which is one of the few remakes I actually enjoy. Yeah, but even then, I wouldn't say they're like 5-star movies. I'd say they're like 3.5 out of 5, maybe. I'd say 3.5 out of 5, maybe 4. Yep. But here's the word once again. Walking Tall's based off a remake. And then The Rundown, to its credit, was an original story. And yeah, and I remember actually really liking that one when it came out. I think I saw it in theaters right when that one came with him and Sean William Scott. But when you see these are scripts for original stuff, it's all super terrible. And then when he's latched onto a big IP, they're terrible as well. And it's just like, are you guys trying to not have a good script and thinking, well, it'll be fine with Dwayne's name just attached? That's because it sure feels like that to me. Once again, for all I know, he could still be given a great script and still be mediocre. I just would like to see how he would play off where he's a leading man with a good script, because
he had the
I know a lot of
Scorpion King to
people.
start with, right? Remember that
Well,
one?
yes,
Kind
no,
of
and
fun
that's
movie, but
not.
yeah.
All I got to say
But-
about The Rock is just remember his highest grossing movie is Black Adam, and that
Yeah,
was
and
considered a
that's-
flop.
and that's not
Oh.
good. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. But I just so I'll put it this way. I was one of the few people who defended Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, not because I like the movies, but I saw what he could truly be as far as what being potentially a great Spider-Man. And I knew a lot of people who wrote him off because of how bad the movies were, but then until they saw him in No Way Home, like, oh wow, I can actually see him, he's actually good in that movie. It's because he had a better story to work with, and you can actually see his potential because he had better material. Now, could Dwayne Johnson pull Andrew Garfield? I don't freaking know, but I feel like that would be my best way to judge the merits of his acting. But yes, he's a fantastic co-star.
I just see his lane as like that comedy, that action comedy. Like you can put it on. It doesn't have a lot of substance, but you can put it on and it have, an hour and a half of entertainment. You don't walk away learning anything, but you enjoyed watching it. That's where I see The Rock's lane. It'd be interesting to see if he could pull off a serious role, but
I think my favorite role with The Rock in it, and you guys should throw me off of a stage into like spikes when I say this, but Hobbs and Shaw is probably the most I ever expected out of him, and he did not disappoint. That's the one movie he's been in where I was not really disappointed by The Rock. But Fast Five, I felt like he's just like a bit character. He's a piece on the chessboard. He's not the king, and he wasn't the focus. But in Hobbs and Shaw, he was allowed to shine as best as he could, and I still wasn't really too thrilled. But it was okay. The Rundown, it's funny you say that, because in The Rundown there's a scene where Schwarzenegger literally hands him basically the keys to being the action movie king, and it's ever since then The Rock cannot deliver.
I liked him in Baywatch.
Wow.
Oh, that's great.
No, I'm just making a joke.
No, it was good.
Yeah.
Now let's get to the great leading man who obviously has had fantastic stories galore. Fucking Clint Eastwood, man, one of the OG badasses. Yes, I know he is years after the John Waynes. But as far as take it to the level that he did, as I said on the Dirty Harry stream, I feel like he definitely set the stage for a lot of the action heroes to come in the 70s and 80s and 90s. I feel like he definitely is the one who kicked it up a notch. He saw the print with John Wayne and said, how could I add some edge to this? And he fucking went for that. And yeah, I put any of these movies on, obviously even outside of Dirty Harry, Clint Eastwood's the fucking man. Like, I've always wondered, like, I can imagine if there was a Dirty Harry movie that came out with 90-year-old Clint Eastwood, I could see him coming out barely walking. He's like, there's a fucking half a century and this town still isn't cleaned up yet. Oh, fuck.
Well, he's hinted that like that would be the only way to come back is like, he gets pulled into an old case after retirement, but at this point, he's going to make one more movie, so I don't think we're ever going to get it. Which is sad.
Yeah, that ship is.
It would be awesome to see, though. Like
I would actually see that a 90-year-old Dirty Harry, and I probably would actually be sold on it because I can.
It'd be a hell of a lot more believable than a 90-year-old Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
we did
true that.
We did get old Christopher Lloyd being the father in Nobody, and Christopher Lloyd was a genuine badass in that movie. I thought.
Yeah. No, I think Clint could pull it off one more time, but I don't think he will because he said it would take the right script, and he obviously hasn't got it yet. So,
and not to get too crazy gun nut on this, but we've talked about movies that have characters that aren't actors. This whole series has a character that isn't an actor, and we're looking at it right now.
Oh yeah,
the Smith & Wesson Model 29, 44 Magnum. it was most popular with a 4-inch barrel. They couldn't find one for Harry. They couldn't find one as a prop. So they wound up buying the one they could get, which was the 6.5-inch barrel model, which is why he has
Thank
that
God.
enormous gun. Doesn't wear it most of the time. According to Milius, he would reach into his jacket, then there'd be a cut. Then he'd put on the pistol or the revolver and pull it out. But he didn't wear it all the time because he could barely move.
You're
with
saying
it.
he was
it's a
so
literal
big
cannon,
his gun didn't fit in his pants? He was so big?
Yes.
His gun didn't fit in his jacket. He was so
It's
big.
like a clown gun when he pulls it out, man.
Exactly.
Remind me of the one that Joker pulled out in the first
Yes.
Batman. He was trying to shoot a
that was a parody of Dirty Harry's gun.
Yeah.
That was so obvious. I don't know if you guys got that, but the minute I saw him pull that thing out and his arm keeps going up and up and up and up and up, and finally it comes out and he points and I'm like, they're making fun of Dirty Harry, damn it.
I saw Batman 1989 way before I saw Dirty Harry. Probably obviously because I was a Batman fan first before
Right.
a Dirty Harry fan. So maybe that's why I never really made the connection. But now that you're saying that, I'm never gonna unsee that. But I remember thinking it was ridiculous with Joker's gun. But now I know why it was ridiculous because that was intentional.
Well, not just if you hear the soundtrack, everybody else's gun is like "Pacow, pacow, pacow." As soon as he shoots, it's "Papow, papow." It sounds like a fucking cannon.
I felt sorry for Bob. Poor Bob got shot.
But yeah, the Dirty Harry's gun. Dirty Harry's gun is almost given how often his partners die. Dirty Harry's gun is more his partner than any of the other cops, any detective.
Well, really, and that's why it's funny in this movie because his partner hangs back through most of the damn movie,
and it still doesn't
dies,
help.
Unfortunately, yeah,
Doesn't help him
yeah,
out.
he still dies.
Yep.
I thought I remember when I first saw him, like, I think he'll make it. He they can't have a movie. This will be the one where his partner actually survives. And I was like, oh damn, I was fucking wrong. And I especially when the bombs going off, and then I remember thinking, answer the fucking phone.
If I remember right, the only one that he doesn't have a partner that dies in it would be the last one, if I remember right.
Deadpool.
Like that, I think that Asian dude in Deadpool. Yeah, I think he lives.
Yep, he has a
remember
broken arm.
Dude.
Yeah, he just ends up with a broken arm. Thank you, Bruce.
So
yeah, it's been like 20 years since I've seen Deadpool, but yeah.
By your logic, do they live? Oh.
Well, he does tell his partner at the beginning of this that don't worry, my last partner is still alive. He's teaching school now.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, he did say because he was trying to give him reassurance because he saw he was about to get stressed. Was it Early was his name, right?
I think so.
That his partner.
Yeah, I think so, but it's the guy from RoboCop. That's
yes,
all I
it
remember.
is.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the reason he's black was also a comment on a lot of the criticism of the first film.
Well, his first partner was Latino.
I know, and everybody ignored that. In the that's the thing. Yeah. This movie, again, to kind of reiterate what we were saying in the beginning, is purely like Milius looked at this idea and he's like, he saw all the reviews of Dirty Harry and he's like, I don't think they get the movie, first of all. He's like, but if they really think he's a fascist, I'll fucking show them a fascist. And he used this idea, and I think it was taken from a militant group in where was it? Brazil. Thank you. I was gonna say, because they even reference it in the movie. And so he pitched this idea to Clint. And Clint loved the idea, and he'd been looking for a Dirty Harry too. He'd already gone through like 4 scripts at this point, I guess. And Milius just kind of came up with this idea. And Milius had nothing to do with the first one, had nothing to do with any of the sequels afterwards. And considering the problems they went through to find a director for this film, I'm surprised it wasn't a Milius directed film at the end of the day, because it is a very John Milius movie when you really kind of step back and look at it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, really, he just wanted to go like, okay, I'm going to show these people fascists, and we're going to show them the flip of the coin. And Harry doesn't really change. Harry is the same character he was in the first movie, but just by changing the direction of the bad guy from being like this hippie Zodiac type killer guy in the first movie to actual cops, fascist cops in the second film.
Guys,
in this complete flip of this yin and yang, like you were saying, Nick. But the beauty of it is Harry's still in the middle, and he's still the same guy at the end of the day, but he has a line, right? And that line is the law. Sure, he bends it, and sometimes he does kind of smudge it a little bit here and there when he's doing his job, but that's his excuse, right? He only does it, at the expense of getting the bad guys. And like he says in the great line, I think it's in this movie, where he says, doesn't matter how many guns there are as long as the right people get shot.
Yeah.
This one or the third one he says it. I can't remember which one, but yeah.
And by the way, so correct me if my memory's wrong, but the fat guy in this movie, the older rotund detective, was his first partner. He's the one who actually goes with him to the stadium, but he gets wounded, and that's when they bring in the Hispanic guy.
And he actually is the same guy, I think, in the third film, too. I think he's playing the same character.
Yeah.
He's his partner in the third film, I think, because he gets killed, and then Tyne Daly comes in.
Right. But he was his partner when we first see him at the beginning of the first movie, and he doesn't last that long. He gets wounded, winds up in the hospital, and they need to get Harry a new partner. But
and
I
think
survives.
That's what he was referring to here. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So but he is definitely known for losing partners, which is why the cops are all setting up the betting pool on how long his new partner is going to last.
Yeah, John Mitchum is DeGario. Is that how you say his name? DeGargio, or however you ever say it is. He's on the stakeouts throughout this movie, but
yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one.
DeGorgio.
It's
Yeah,
DeGorgio because I know a guy who has that last name. So yeah, DeGorgio.
Oh no. That's the mafia guy that he shoots in the car.
Oh, okay.
Tony Giorgio. Gotcha. No, I don't think he had a major enough role. I gotta go to look at all cast and crew to find him.
Probably.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'll look.
And of course, you got Hal Holbrook here.
Yeah.
Oh,
actor,
Lieutenant Briggs. Man, you want to for me, like having him be involved with all. I should have pieced it together.
They do a great job with this, right? Because they kind of paint him as a red herring from the start. Because him and Harry are constantly butting heads.
Yes.
So you're almost like expecting him to be one of the guys, and then you're at one point you're like, oh no, he can't be one of the guys, and then you're like, oh shit, he is one of the guys, and then it makes you wonder how much deeper this really goes than what. Because Hal even says that at one point, and you're kind of surprised more people don't show up to back him up, but like it makes you kind of wonder like how many more people in the police force are really behind this.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, because like I was thinking. These guys who obviously this group of guys who are all doing this dual identity of this one cop character who is a traffic cop. I'm like, there's someone had to have gotten them into force. And I'm like, it can't be that guy because he's the one answer to Harry or Harry's answer to him. But then I see the banter. I'm like, hold on, could he not? And remember, then it tripped me out when they get in the car. As soon as he said to go on the one turn, and then Harry noticed that it was outside of where they normally go. I'm like, oh,
he knew, yeah.
Frick! I was like, damn it, it's that son of a bitch. And here's where he gets in that reassurance that everything is okay. It's okay. One guy, he's alive. Don't worry. And that's where he acknowledges burgers this time. He has burgers at least 2-3 times in this movie. He really loved his burgers this time around over the hot dogs. Maybe he got sick of hot dogs by the time.
Well, he's supporting his old partner. He keeps going to his burger shop or whatever, ain't it? Yeah.
Was that?
This is his old partner. That's right. I was getting confused with the other guy. So there's another cop who is in this one, but he ends up becoming his partner in the third film. That's right. I was getting them mixed up.
It's okay. Man, he's got a nice, good old 70s.
It helps if you actually see the movies more often. And of course, I watched the third film last night, not this one.
Isn't it strange that they're just having lunch at like the airport for no reason?
It's not really no reason. Like I said, he's there to support his old partner friend and talk to him about this case. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
I mean, I'm going to go to the airport and pay twice as much.
Right.
Wasn't then, but
but it's an ex. But it's an ex detective's food stand.
Yeah.
So he's not paying twice as much.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get that too, but it's at the same time, it's like how you can't get that far to an airport now, too. That's like another.
Oh no! Actually,
Milius.
Yeah, Milius in his commentary said that he just strolls through security. You could carry anything onto a plane in those days. You could carry a gun onto a plane in those days. Yeah, that was true.
Well, that's what this scene is highlighting too. I mean, well, they did have added the metal detectors, but you had a ton of hijackers in the 70s too. Hijacking was a massive problem.
What's funny is if this was going on now, they would shut down the whole fucking airport too.
Oh,
exactly.
God, yeah. Everything.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there, but yeah.
No, you're right. No, 100%. And I had a friend, friend of my family was a pilot. I think I mentioned this before. And after 9/11, they had added a ton more rules, obviously. And he had taken the training to carry a gun on the plane. And then they stopped him at the pilots and had to go get checked, and they're like, sorry sir, you can't take this nail clipper on because it has the nail file on it. He's like, you realize I'm carrying a gun, don't you? He's like, yes, well, you're qualified, it's legal for you to carry the gun, but you can't bring this nail clipper on the plane.
Yeah, like there's states where I can carry a gun but I can't carry a switchblade.
Yeah, it's so weird.
And he's like, you realize there's an axe in the cockpit that we can use in case of emergency. And then he told me later, he's like, and also I'm the goddamn pilot too. It's like, you're not gonna trust me with the nail clipper. So, but
no shit.
Yeah, obviously security is been ramped up, but it was a lot easier to get stuff on a plane back in the day.
Excuse me, Captain. This may seem silly, but can you fly?
Nope. Never had a lesson.
What a great line.
Yep. And then he looks at the guy behind him. The guy behind him is like, what? And he slams on the brakes.
His expression, his eyes, I thought his eyes were going to pop out because it seems that he was all confident by having the gun up to Harry's head, and also he goes into instant panic mode. Oh, shit. Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead. I had to.
No, it's great. It's just this is a funny bit in this whole.
Yes.
Well, at least he knew how to steer the plane, I guess, and work the throttle and the brakes.
Right.
So it's just cool. But yeah, that was a fun scene because you're waiting. You're like, what's gonna happen with this? Is he gonna really try to take off or
exactly
plan here? And then how the Briggs character when he's at the end of the scene,
we've got an officer on scene already. Who?
Yeah, we were lucky. One of your men was already here, an Inspector Callahan.
God.
Callahan. But what is Harry's line to Lieutenant Briggs when he gets off the plane? What are you doing here, Briggs? And walks away.
Yeah.
That's why that's such a great setup with Briggs, because you all along you think that he's there's no way you think that he could be the
he's too much of a foil, right?
Yeah, which is good.
He doesn't even seem like a guy that's all that capable of that too. He just seems like I guess you could say he's a bit of he kind of comes off as a bit of a pansy at times.
Well, yeah,
and then you're like, oh, that guy really? No,
he's the maroon to Harry's jokes all the time, basically.
Yeah. Well, when in an earlier scene, he says, we can't have the public crying police brutality every time you go out in the street, Harry. Mm-hmm. I've been in the force longer than you, and I've never had to draw my weapon, and I'm very proud of that.
Proud of that.
Yeah. And Harry says, "You're a good man, Briggs. A good man knows his limitations."
Yep.
That's why that's such a wonderful catchphrase for this movie, because at the first time it's used, it's, yeah, I know you're a completely incompetent desk jockey. Tell me something I don't know.
Right. It's almost as good as the line that he says to the mayor in the first one, where he's like, when a man's chasing a woman with a heart on, I call that intent.
Yeah.
He's got a point.
Oh, John Vernon.
Oh, I see what you did there, but that's a point.
Hey, wait a minute. Just think of poor John Vernon trying to keep a straight face in that scene.
Like, how do you justify that? It's like, well, when a man's running with a heart on down an alleyway, chasing a woman, I'd call that intent.
So,
I ain't gonna finish the line, but you know what the rest of it.
We know the rest of it. you know, it's something that I definitely realize. Like, you want a good way to make any action movie suspenseful is put people on a plane scenario anytime, because you're thinking flight, you're thinking what if, you know, anyone at that point, no one's safe from that. And rewatching that scene, it really made me realize how anytime, no matter, it's kind of a trope, an action movie trope, but it's a trope that continues to work because you never know where it can go. Like, or will they get in parachutes? Will they have to jump out, risk it? How far are they from the ground? There's just so many possibilities that you can go with the plane, no matter how many times it's. I guess you could say it was even overused a bit back in the day, but it always worked for me. No one.
Oh,
I can agree with that.
Okay.
Whenever you see the scene change to the interior of a plane and inertia is being applied to everybody on board, it could get very tense very fast.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, there's a few times. Oh, go ahead.
No, I don't want to say that's because we're all we got PTSD from 9/11 2001.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to say that was like the day many of us in Generation X, it really hit us because like we weren't there in the 70s when all the terrorist acts were going on from the Middle East.
Right.
We were in diapers at the time. We don't remember that. But
no, the big difference was 9/11. We started treating it like, I mean, I hate putting it this way. It's like we've dealt with it before. Like you said, we'd had it 20 years. Like when they had this bit in this movie, like this was a common thing at this time. These terrorists taking over these fucking planes all the time and shit.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden 9/11, they start acting like it's a new big thing. And it's like, no, the only difference this time is they actually got us on our own soil. That's the only difference this time.
Well, no,
like,
no, Tom. The big difference, and the reason that all the policies changed after 9/11 was that hijackers in the 70s didn't want to crash the plane. They wanted to go somewhere. So the whole strategy was to string them out, offer them, tell them you're getting what they want,
right,
but set up to take them down. Whereas, and basically they told all the passengers, sit in your seats, comply with what you're told.
Yep.
They told that to the flight crews.
Yep.
We're coming to help you. With 9/11, that went out the window because
you're right. I agree,
they didn't want to fly the plane somewhere and land. They wanted to fly
Yeah.
the plane and use it as a weapon.
No, you're right.
And that changed it all. And that was the
Yeah.
big difference between the two.
Yeah, that's true. And then we did go past Mitchell Ryan's scene, which is he's kind of another red herring in the film. Because, he's an old friend of Harry's who's going down this deep, this dark path of divorce and midlife crisis and, bad thoughts, let's say.
Yeah. No, he was definitely in exactly as you said with the midlife crisis. He's definitely doing a lot of contemplating. You're thinking, could it be something that set him up because he was in a heat of passion so late in his life that he now had the straw that broke the camel's back? Yeah, no, I thought for a second maybe he was, but then all of a sudden I saw Blondie here hanging on back of these group of guys. That he was my second guess. He was my second guess. I'm like, maybe it's got to be.
Yeah, we got to talk about this crew because you got Tim Matheson, Robert Urich, like you said, Starsky and Hutch guy,
David Soul.
I can't remember who the other guy is, but yeah,
he didn't have the same. He didn't have a breakout like they did that I remember. But I mean, yeah, Urich wound up in a television series in the late '80s. Matheson, of course, was Rush Chairman.
Tim Matheson.
yeah.
Tim Matheson. What was it? What was his real name? He was Otter.
Beaver?
No. He was Otter.
Otter.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember the line, but it's a Rush Chairman. So and so, Rush Chairman. Damn glad to meet you. That's all he says in the first scene he's in.
Is
and
this
of course,
the Suzanne
David Soul.
Summer scene?
What's that?
Is this the topless Suzanne Summer scene?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
I didn't even realize it was her.
I didn't either until recently. Yeah.
On.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that.
I didn't even know that either.
We got Suzanne Summers topless.
Yes.
He looks happy.
Well,
about
she was with Mad though that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to say, this has got to be the worst effect ever done for a Dirty Harry movie. Milius talked about it. He wrote that the cop shows up with a submachine gun and a satchel charge. Now, a satchel charge in reality is about 2 pounds of C4 plastic explosives wrapped in canvas with straps around it. You throw it into a concrete pillbox and it blows up the whole pillbox. They actually put a smoke effect into a leather satchel, put a fuse on it, and he heaves it into the pool. And mostly what it does is make smoke and then a little bit of fountain of water. And it's like a real satchel charge. It would have blown half of that patio down the hill.
Well, not only that, I don't think the blast kills anybody. All it does, like you said, is make the water go sploosh.
It just makes the water go sploosh.
What was the whole point of the explosion? It was like, wait, he just killed everyone. You just
all it does is draw more attention, right? Like you're like, what the hell?
I know.
Satchel charge should leave fist-sized chunks of people behind.
Yeah,
that I think is Ted Post and other people misinterpreting Milius, and that's where I think this movie would have been better served if Milius had directed it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. We're gonna
Nick, did you see actually Amber Heard is here tonight? Wow.
We're gonna get
we have another celebrity in Andy Sandler here.
So Andy Sandler here disguised as Jason Sandberg for another $2. Thank you. Says call me anything, just not untalented. And then we got Darius Munchausen for a $3 super sticker, and he gives the horns. Thank you, Darius. And then Darius again. Thank you, Darius, for $5. A second film in the series, and it's already a meta commentary on the first one, dude. Yeah, it's the yin and yang, man. Yin and yang. And then Amber Heard took a poo break, a non-poo break, to leave us $5. So I appreciate your generosity.
I don't believe a word she's saying here.
Says this was back when San Francisco was nice. Now the streets are full of poop. I find that disgusting. Don't you find that charming and soothing? I mean, you did roll around in your own wet.
Ander.
Well, despite your shitty issues, I do thank you, Amber, for that $5. I'm just glad you're giving that money to me and not Johnny. I'll gladly take more of it, please. Thank you. Ugh, I don't like that. I wish I could say I like that, but I don't. You weren't gonna play it. Okay, that one's a little bit better. Yeah,
this one's a little scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks too frightening.
Well, do you, punk?
I did clip this, so for all those super chats, we should play this, I guess, right?
Okay.
Man's got to know his limitations.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Facts, my guy. Facts.
That's the thing with each one of these Dirty Harry movies, and he knew that after the first film with the, you got to ask yourself one question, thing. Like that, he knew every movie he's got to have one of those. Yeah. And, yeah. So
that works.
And this was a good one. This was a good one because it's used in different ways, which I loved.
Yes.
It's almost like it's Harry's go-to for all sorts of situations in this movie. Oh, now his partner's got to be thinking, is this my moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry gets down there awfully fast, I have to say, from wherever he was. It was
which is funny because doesn't he get in trouble for not being here in the first place the first time he gets yelled at? Because this is what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it didn't make sense that scene, but it's still a great scene.
It was nice to at least see early get a nice shot in too. Because as soon as this happened, he goes run. I didn't think he was gonna get. I didn't think he was gonna get a guy. I'm like, oh shit! Hey, he actually got someone. He got a shot.
Oh, Felton Perry here, yeah.
Yep. I was like, hell yeah. Our man here.
Early Smith. You were right. His name is Early Smith. That's a weird name.
Yeah, I remember seeing the credits for it many moons back, and I'm thinking, and I didn't remember his last name, but I remember his first name, and I was like, Early, okay, I guess what? So this is his wife named Night, or girlfriend named Night, or evening, morning and morning, early and no, it should have been later, early and later. Yeah, early and late.
Oh, that says
if your girlfriend's late, that's not good news.
Yo, yeah.
mustache mugs over there. Did you see that?
Was this like a bodega or some shit? I don't even know what kind of store this is. I couldn't even place it.
But he seems like he seems like a good man that is early to things. So we gotta get to him. He's early for the ladies, so gotta give it to him. Nice fro and all too. Ooh, look at that candy there. That was really nice candy. Yeah, let's go back to that candy. It's a
Toblerone.
Swiss chocolate. That's Swiss. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. It actually looks really, really classy chocolate. Made me want some. Damn it. You know what? Actually, I do
bad
have
now, Nick. It's gone bad.
Oh, dog.
Now, Felton Perry had a huge career on television after this. Didn't do a whole lot of movies outside of the RoboCop films, but he was in another movie where he played a cop. Does anybody remember?
I don't.
And it was actually a pretty big movie. Let me see if I can come up with a hint.
I think he
Came out in 1994.
I'll tell you something. If the rest of you could shoot like them.
Yeah. Did you see the look on the patrolman's face?
Yeah.
They linger. The camera lingers on the patrolman who's just come out as Harry says, if your rest of your department could shoot like them, I wouldn't care if they were all gay. And the patrolman's looking at him like, did I just hear that?
It's the closest
response to the first movie.
It's the closest thing to a homoerotic moment in this movie. So we gotta enjoy our little moments while we have them. It's the closest that we'll get, and we need an excuse to play these clips.
You have the biggest dick I've ever.
Mark, are you playing my buttons? Mark, are you pushing my buttons?
You have the biggest dick I've ever seen on a man.
No, I would never do that. I'd never ever do that. Yeah.
Shout out to Dolph Lundgren. He the biggest dick that Brandley's ever seen is currently fighting the cancer, and Godspeed to him because he will recover. He's Dolph Lundgren. There's just no way he does it.
We still have no guesses on my trivia. Okay, I guess I'll have to give you guys.
Yes, I'll try to buy you time to get people to have a guess.
No, nobody got it yet, so I'll give you one hint. Yeah, what if he shot you in the face?
Jeff Daniels?
Dumb and Dumber, yes.
Yeah, Jeff Daniels.
He played a detective in Dumb and Dumber. Yep.
I should have known that. I've seen that movie like 100 times.
I remember. Because Jeff Daniels.
What if he shot you in the face?
What if he shot you in the face? And then the lady.
Yeah, what if he had shot me in the face?
Lady officer's like, well, that's a chance we're well entertained.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. You know what's? I'm glad you mentioned that because that was the first movie I ever saw Jeff Daniels in. And to me, when I thought Jeff Daniels, I thought of how he looked in Dumb and Dumber, bad hair and all. So when I saw the skit with him and Chris Farley doing the Remember the Time, I didn't realize for the longest time it was Jeff Daniels until I think I was like 10 or 11 because he looked so normal and proper. And then when someone mentioned it to me, when I think, I was late elementary, they oh, that's Jeff Daniels. I was like, no, it's not. His hair's too clean. And it's all, now I'm like, oh, that is Jeff Daniels. I didn't realize he actually looked there because to me he just looked like a bozo because of Dumb and Dumber. So to me that was how he normally looked in that movie.
I had a hard time seeing him as a comedian because all the stuff I had seen him up to that point was serious shit.
Oh no shit! So you said the opposite. Oh.
Yeah, I had the opposite issue.
Wow.
We got to do Dumb and Dumber on Toxic Tuesday.
Yes, we do. Yes, we absolutely do.
The original cut, not the extended.
This was
cut,
a fucked up scene.
This is a fucked up scene because there's two parts to this I want to get to. First of all, the actor. This is one of the few actors who has appeared in multiple Dirty Harry movies in different roles. He's appeared in all first four of the films. He's, of course, the I Gots to Know guy in the first movie. In this one, he's the pimp. In the third film, he plays Moses. And I can't remember who he plays in the fourth film. But then, of course, he's not in...
they were trying to get him for the fifth film, and I think he was shooting something else, and there was a conflict. They actually had a role for him to bring him in.
He played Horace in Sudden Impact.
That's it. Okay, yeah. And because in the third film, he actually, him and Clint actually have a lot of screen time together. But this one they have none whatsoever. But I think they managed to have screen time in the other three. But yeah, how he kills this hooker here is actually how some armed robbers had killed some witnesses in a crime, and they actually called it I can't remember what it was, but whatever this character's name is in the movie. Shit.
Oh yeah, it was. I just read it the other day. But it was
yeah,
some real life crime. They said it was claimed it was
doing this. Yeah, they called it by the guy's name. The
Hi-Fi Murders. The Hi-Fi Murders.
Yeah.
Wow.
In Utah. Yep.
I like seeing all these perspectives of people where they discover Carrie and Daniels. Damn. That was my second movie for Carrie. First one I saw was, I think it was either The Mask or the first Ace Ventura. One of those two. And I was very blown away by the physical humor. And then that's what led me down to like the Chris Farley's of the world, where he turned that shit to 11 with Tommy Boy. And Tommy Callahan.
Yep.
Tommy Callahan. Oh, man.
And
I'm talking about
famous,
that this
famous
weekend.
scene here.
Ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Yeah.
That's what I meant by that. I got to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, by the way, if anybody thinks that car is an exaggerated prop, let me assure you, it's not.
I love that car.
That's called a pimp mobile, and they existed in the 70s.
It's a pink caddy.
Yeah, pink Cadillac with fur all over the inside.
It reminds me of The Godfather from the WWF Attitude Era with the hoe train. That seems like that if he were to drive, that would have been his vehicle. If he went down the entrance, that would have been like what he packed the hoe train in. Seriously, that vehicle screams The Godfather.
Yeah, no, I can't believe he got pulled over there. Who would never notice that car, right?
Right.
Well, that's one thing I was wondering about all these cops pulling people over not only broad daylight.
Well,
but as
this is kind of
I think it's a hiding in plain sight.
I noticed this as it was kind of like off the overpass, and this is the same area they end up taking Harry to later on. So I think it's a bit off the way to where nobody else can see him, because it takes them a while to even find him. I think it was like a day or so or whatever.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it's also Sanford, the California era too. I mean, when they see murder nowadays in 70s, they were already prepped to a way.
See, there's no houses or anything around them there. Wherever they're at, there it's pretty. I wouldn't say isolated, but it's
there was a calculated decision to say we gotta make sure it's an area that is less suspectable, even though people nowadays see murder happening, they don't bat an eye. But yes, there was definitely some thought there, and once again, look at all the diversity right there. I don't know if she's Korean or whatnot, but it's obvious that Harry has the instant hot for her, and just says to knock on my door, and well, she comes running, and then she wouldn't stop running.
Oh, I gotta stop this right here, but check out there's a goof right there. Look in the background there, the trolley car.
Oh, there's the whole crew.
They're waving. They're waving to the movie, like, because they could see that the film was in production. So,
that's people outside. I thought that was like a reflection.
Yeah. No, but it's actually a trolley car going by at the time in San Francisco. So they said people were waving, to Dirty Clint Eastwood.
Right, because they're like, they're up here filming the new Dirty Harry movie.
Yeah, that's
right.
Well, I thought she was an insert character because the first movie, like a lot of people of San Francisco Oriental community, wrote love and lust letters to the production house. They loved Clint Eastwood. They wanted Clint Eastwood, and so they placated them by giving him an Oriental lover in this movie.
Oriental.
That's racist.
That's funny saying Oriental. But Clint's just a
this
man
scene is ridiculous, though. It's just like, of course, adds to his aurora, his mystique there. But it's just like he meets the girl for 2 seconds. So she's like, "I can't wait to sleep with you. We'll just come up in a few minutes. I'll be ready." Yeah,
I would call that.
Wait a minute. This should be a poll, Dick. Has a woman ever said to you, "What does it take you to get you to sleep with somebody?" And the answer is knock on the door.
No girl is gonna admit to that in this chat or air.
No. I meant the guys. No, I was asking. Are any of the guys going to claim to have had that said to them? I want to know who's willing to say.
No, I ain't no Clint Eastwood, so no.
Yeah, no, neither am I.
And Clint even said he started getting a lot more fan mail from Asian women after this movie too. and marriage proposals and everything, and pictures and everything else,
Wow.
A man of culture.
Yep.
This is a good line. Wait a minute.
To his Harry.
You cross me and I'll drop you lower than whale shit. Speaking of whale shit, what have you got, Lieutenant?
He's always good at flipping it on him, and that's why you don't suspect him so much near the end, because like I said, he's more of his foil throughout the movie.
Right.
And he kind of takes those lines like a bitch too, which made me think another reason why he did it, because usually there's a little bit of like a hint of pushback, but there was not the slightest. It was just all like, yeah, I know I'm a soy boy bitch, I know, shut up, Harry. But no, he didn't really go on the defense. He just took it. But I guess that's really all he's good for anyways. Until you realize, oh, shit, he is more than good for something. Damn it. I'm sure that line would ended restraining orders and pepper spray. Wow. oh, that's funny. Yeah, that was timely. Amber Heard's here, and we got that line with the whale shit.
Yeah.
Good one, Lisa.
Yeah. And of course, it's he's the first one to suggest it might be cops too.
Yep.
Yes. I remember when he does that first kill, because it was outside of that protest, because the what's that guy's name? RZA got out. And I remember like when he got pulled over, I didn't know. I actually thought it was gonna be Harry. When I first saw it ever, I thought, oh, Harry's now actually in a proper uniform. Okay, weird. His voice sounds different, but maybe they'll just have some. But then all of a sudden, the RZA and all the guys that are hard get shot. The show, I'm like, whoa, it's a cop doing it, bro. He's working on the inside, man. What a big old contrast from a guy from working against, guys who work against your system. Because you had the crazy guy, the Zodiac like killer, so now you got a guy from the inside. It's another yin and yang. So operating against the system from the outside to operating against the system from the inside. Whoa. There's more than one yin and yang in here.
Yeah.
She give them best duck. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just gonna say, and we haven't really discussed the documentary we watched. It's probably in this lull
talk
here.
About it.
It's probably a good place to do it because, I mean, it was interesting because this documentary came out, I think, around 2008. That was on the original DVD and still on the Blu-ray releases, as was pointed out here. Mm-hmm. And it really talks about the right and left politics that are in especially the first two films. Mm-hmm. How I mentioned, if you guys remember when we watched Dirty Harry, how I mentioned Pauline Kael was the one who kind of kicked this whole thing off against him in the first place, even though she had to even admit that the first film was a good film. But yeah, so there was a lot of critics of the film, and then they didn't know what to do with this movie. And it was at the time, and it's funny because you watch that documentary, one of the first things Clint Eastwood says was, you had the left calling the rights fascist and the rights calling the left commies. And it was just insane how extreme it was at those times. And I just, I was like beside myself and my jaw hit the floor because, like, I'm sure I watched this way back when, but I hadn't watched the making of it or whatever since forever. So I'm seeing this now for the first time and watching this 25-minute documentary about the politics of Dirty Harry films. And it's like, holy shit, this sounds like us almost every single fucking day talking about this stuff. And then I got to ask myself at the end of the documentary, as I said earlier, I posited to Andre, I'm like, where's our Dirty Harry? Because that's what we need to get the fuck out of this mess right now. Because this was one of those movies that really changed things, along with Death Wish, as we talked about with that too. Because that made people actually start to ask those questions and really started to show how stupid it was to rely on a lot of the left's ideas as far as dealing with crime and how it wasn't working, basically. And how Harry kind of signified to them at first this fascist right-wing character, but then when you put him up against actual fascists, you see how tough it is really just for a cop to do his job. And this is the guy I'm talking about who becomes his partner in the third film.
Yeah, what Harry's friend who is kind of the crazy guy in the movie, right? Who's the red herring for who you think is organizing this group. He says it, yeah, try being a cop today. I'm, paraphrasing the line, but they just let him out, or the cop, we get in trouble, So there's always more to a story too. There's so many things. Like look at that woman with the city bike the other day, the nurse in the hospital. Now, allegedly, it turned out that she was yelling at these guys who, and it became a racial incident. And it turned out she had the receipts for renting the city bike, and maybe these guys allegedly were pranking her or pushing the bike back so it tagged again. But it's just everything is just so fractured today, and everything goes boom right to racism, right to how the worst part of people, without giving people the benefit of the doubt or looking at the other side. Like try being a cop one day. I remember watching a scene on a news program where they sent one of the one of the guys in the neighborhood who was religious leader who was very anti-cop. And a lot of the things he said, well, why don't you do the training course that you see here later in the movie when they see how fast they can shoot the guns, and they do like a training scenario. And this person ended up killing a lot of civilians and then ended up getting killed himself a few times in these training scenarios, and kind of opened up his eyes into like, not that I'm trying to excuse, cops who do something wrong, but it's just if you live a day, try to put yourself in their shoes, pulling someone over, and you don't know, that person could have a gun, could be a criminal, or could just be a car full of mads there with nudist mads, but from a nudist colony.
favorite scene, and he's not only not here for it, but you get to get full ass, dude. This lady took a fucking flappy fall. Like when you see her like she is flimming around. Oh, dude, look, there's a statue who's hard. Go back.
Well, she hit some. She bounced on the way down.
Dude, I was like, damn.
Yeah. But yeah, I get.
There's a guy in the chat that's asking, could these movies? Bryant Barth asks, can movies like Dirty Harry or Magnum Force be made today?
This is the
third time
it's not a matter that they can or can't. It's matter that they won't.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of my point I was getting at too, is we need something like this to get us out of this rut, because another point of that documentary I was talking about is they bring up how Nixon used to talk about the silent majority. Again, does that sound fucking familiar? And what Dirty Harry and Death Wish proved is that there was a silent majority who had enough.
Yeah.
Because people were going to these movies in droves. And not only that, Dirty Harry, and this is another thing, the Dirty Harry films is one of the exceptions to the rule when I talk about how sequels never used to make more than their original films. That didn't start happening until X-Men and Spider-Man, right? Dirty Harry was one of the exceptions to the rules.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
Terminator would actually be one of the exceptions to the rules.
Because Judgment Day was one of the biggest movies of 1991.
It was an exception to the rule.
And it was R-rated, which at the time was groundbreaking, because it wasn't as common for R-rated movies to be, the biggest hit. Like, obviously, you had some exceptions, but that was definitely
usually the way the studios looked at this, if you go through any franchise, be it Friday the 13th, Police Academy, Planet of the Apes, whatever it was back then, even Jaws, if you look at the movies, the common thing was the first movie would make X amount, the second movie was lucky to make half or 2/3 of what the first movie did, and the same thing, it would go down about 1/3 each movie. Star Wars was one of the other rare ones, but even those, the second and third film didn't make as much as the first movie did at the time.
Well, they almost panned Empire Strikes Back on critical side. There was a lot of negative commentary for Empire Strikes Back. I remember, you can go and read that. It's archived pretty well. But then you have in 86, we have Aliens, which absolutely smashed Alien, I think.
And even more.
That's one of the rare exceptions to the rules. The only big exceptions to the rules, other than because Dirty Harry was the only franchise where you had each movie would make more than the last one did, up through I think the fourth film. But otherwise, you had Karate Kid 2 that managed to make more money than the first one, but the third one flopped. Terminator 2 managed to make more money than the first one, but then again, you could argue how the rest of them have pretty much flopped after that.
Yep.
It was the same kind of thing for a lot. You get once in a great while, you would get these random sequels that would, but it was just rare and few between. Dirty Harry was a big exception to the rule at the time.
So, I think it's a testament to Clint Eastwood as an actor, and it's kind of like a Bond series too, in that way, where you want to just see your hero in that new adventure, where maybe it's somewhat a rehash, but a cop story. There's just so many things you do, or Bond. You can do. There's so many story possibilities, but some of the sequels that you get, it's just like, why the hell are they making a sequel to this movie? There's no need to, we don't need one, right? And it's just a cash grab. For the studios that don't have any good ideas left. So,
to circle back to the question, could a Dirty Harry movie be made today? I can only think of one person that I think could make a Dirty Harry movie, either directing and or starring in it. That's Mel Gibson.
I would
maybe Sylvester Stallone,
and maybe Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, but I remember watching Fat Man. Now it is nowhere near the in-your-face characterization that Dirty Harry is, but Mel Gibson's Santa Claus is a badass.
Oh, I love that movie.
He is old school. You screw up, you've been bad, you get coal.
Mel Gibson would make a great villain for a Dirty Harry movie, because Mel Gibson's really damn good at playing villains, and I'm going to be one of those guys who shouts it out because I absolutely love Expendables 3. Mel Gibson was awesome in that flick. He was so outrageously batty. I loved it. I would love to see Mel Gibson be a foil to Clint Eastwood. That would be a good hero villain dynamic. I would love to have seen that.
Yeah,
because Mel Gibson knows how to play crazy, and obviously we see how, whether it was Machete or Lethal Weapon, he knows how to do the crazy, whether it's for a good guy or a bad guy. How could that? Come on, that you can't tell me that would not work. I'd love that. I could, and I'll bet you right now he could still play crazy if you told him to right now. Gibson would absolutely still annihilate it, and you'd be like, I'm fucking in on this shit. And no, I disagree on. Do not deepfake Clint Eastwood. That's the whole point of it. It's the 90-year-old man who still has to clean up a mess that they have been fixing for 40, 50 years, and they still can't get it together. They still can't. That should be the joke of it, is that the old guys to come in and fix what the young guys can't. That's the whole gist of it.
Well, you
gotta. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm just gonna say you got a slight hint of what it would look like for Clint Eastwood to come back as an old retired Dirty Harry in Gran Torino.
I was thinking that because the fuck your fucking face line is kind of the closest. Then again, I come up with one for if he did do a new Dirty Harry one, they would just say, okay, boomer to him. And then he just pulls out his gun and he's like, that's right. Boom, boom. And then he shoots him.
I want to say that probably the Dirty Harry movies more than the Death Wish films, although the Canon movie house in general is also part of this, are responsible for New York getting tough on crime and electing Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Oh, you're right. Because that was a little bit these movies were before Giuliani did get involved. You're right, Bruce.
Well, this is 70. Well, yeah, this movie is what, 73?
Actually, we saw that graph of urban crime. I don't know. Yeah. I think Mark D with the C had it. New York started that decline in the 90s under a guy named David Dinkins, who was a Democrat and a black politician who managed to do two impossible things at the same time. He managed to reduce crime in New York and piss off everybody.
Oh, wow.
Well,
at the same time.
He was totally incompetent
to do.
Yes.
It was a disaster.
He was a disaster in every area but the reduction
somehow
of crime.
somehow he hired more cops. I mean, I don't know how he got that through today.
I don't know how he did it, and he hired the police commissioner who I believe Giuliani kept on, Ray Kelly. I believe Dinkins hired him. He's the guy who came up with the broken windows policing policy.
Yeah,
and all I'll say is, give David Dinkins his due. He was the start of the reduction of crime in New York that Rudy Giuliani continued but didn't originate. But Dinkins managed to screw up everything else so badly that they couldn't wait. I mean, they elected a Republican to replace him.
Well, the murder rate was still about 1,800 people. I mean, so it was an incredibly high. I'll pull up the graph when I can find it.
I got to bring up this scene here where basically
I'll just say
Clint Eastwood playing Batman. Right? It is a total Batman move, right?
Like, I love.
Can I try your gun? And then he shoots it into the fucking wall and comes back later and gets the bullet. Fucking brilliant.
That was the best scene in the movie, I thought.
Yeah.
I'm glad to know you and I were thinking the same thing. I'm like, that is what a smart scene. Like that is when once again that's creative writing at play. Like you don't just think up that scene like off the top of your head. That you have to really put in some thought. So I love that because there's like hell yeah. Because when I remember seeing this first, I'm like, what was he? Is he just want to get a feel for his gun? Because I could see that you're a guy at the range, you want to get a feel for what the other guy's gun's like. But then you come back and you're like, oh no, there's more to it. And all of a sudden you see him go up to the wall and take her. Like my mind was blown. I was like, hot damn.
Before that, there was a message Harry sent. It's why he lost the competition.
Yeah.
Because the last shot he takes
I was going to get to that. Yeah.
Is a uniformed patrolman. He shoots in the face, and the guy goes,
"Shot one of the good
guys. That was a good guy. The last guy he shot was a good guy." Yeah, because he's pretty sure at this point he's after one or more cops.
Actually, there's two deleted scenes that I'm glad were deleted from the movie that really telegraph to Harry who it is. Even though he's still thinking it's that old cop, but you were about to say something. Sorry about that.
No, I was going to say. Do you think he threw that on purpose so then he could have an excuse to try the other guy's gun? Like just
absolutely,
yes. So that's
absolutely.
What I was thinking about.
I don't know about that. I think the first it was an accident. I think it was psychological. I think you guys are right. I think at that moment he was thinking it was these guys, and then that's when he's like, "I'd like to try it again with your gun." Because he already knew he had the bullet, remember, to match it up with.
Right.
And that's what he did, because that last shot he did on purpose. We all know that. He missed on fucking purpose. And he never misses. That was when he was... That's the way I took it. I could be wrong. Okay. But I think he was just distracted that first time out, and that's why he ended up losing in the first place, but he took advantage of the situation.
No, I think...
But you could be right.
Well, I would just say this. Harry... Every other time in this movie hits what he aims at. Mm-hmm. He hasn't lost the edge. He hasn't stopped being able to hit what he aims at. He is not losing his touch with the revolver. Mm-hmm. When he's at the range with the 4 patrolmen, he puts 6 rounds into the circle. Mm-hmm. When he's on the combat course, he puts 3 rounds in the circle and 3 rounds above it. Mm-hmm. Then he shoots the last shot at the wrong target. He made sure that one person could beat him. The best shot of all 4 of the patrolmen.
See, I was never sure if I took it that way or if he really just was distracted. That's why I took it that way. Not that he never lost his edge, but just the distraction of thinking about putting the whole thing together. Because it was just before that one chubby dude who ends up becoming his partner in the next one flat out tells him, he's like, "There's one thing I can't get is how so-and-so, that one dude got there right away." He was like, "We were right there." He's like, "How did he beat us?"
My initial viewing, I thought, okay, he's having a bad shot. Either he's having a bad day, or maybe he just needs a change of like pace or scenery, or whatever. And then when he tried using the different gun thing, maybe he just needs to try something different. It's kind of like when you're like,
well, the gun is, I don't know.
It's kind of like when you're, oh, I know. Well, later on,
I agree with Mark on that part. Like, it is totally on purpose. At that point, he knows, right? Or he's got that inclination. But I think I was saying my point is he was distracted during the combat range, and when he shot the cop, because his brain was on that shit at that moment. So he was distracted by that, I think, but he took advantage of that. I could be wrong. Mark could be right that he planned it that way from the start.
I'm not sure. Just wondering what you guys think.
The only reason I think I took it that way is just the way that Tim Matheson kind of said it earlier because he comes up to him too just before. Because you remember in the scene when they're in the range there, and he's like, the only one I can see who's shooting as good as that is Starsky and Hutch back there, and he doesn't shoot. He's the only one who doesn't shoot. Remember, he doesn't shoot until we don't see him shoot until that scene. So it's almost kind of setting up, and he even says it to him just before. He's like, the only one who has a chance to beat you now is him. It's almost setting up that he might be a better shot than Harry.
Yep.
He might be.
That's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
I thought
but I don't think Harry could have asked to try his gun if Harry had won. So if Harry went all out,
you're right,
and managed to win, he'd lose the opportunity. I think Harry, that was very calculated on Harry's part.
You might be right.
That's the way I read it. I thought there was Harry might throw one round out of the circle. That I could believe. The way he shoots, I could believe he might miss one. He missed half. And then he shoots the last shot at a cop. It's not just a cop, it's a cop in uniform.
Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, he just hit a good guy." Yeah, like
right.
You said.
Right. I think that was all saying Harry's figured it out. Personally.
You could be right, Mark, but I took it that way just because of the way the scene was set up, where you had, the chubby dude say the thing, and then he messed up, just a little bit, and then they had the standoff thing with the two cops, and then just before that, Tim Matheson said it to him too, and that's where I was just thinking he's putting it all together, so his mind's putting it together, and that's why he shot the cop. I don't think because I think if he would have fucked up, he would have shot somebody else and not a cop. Like if he was going to do it on purpose. That's just my thinking of it. But
I can't say either way for certain, because I can't point to one thing and say this means he must have known or he must have been still working it out. I think it works both ways. You could take it the way you want.
You are probably correct though when you think about it, because you're right. Otherwise, he would have no chance at saying, "Can I try your gun?"
Right. But I think
it makes Harry actually a smarter character too if it's that way.
Right. And Harry is a smart character. He constantly gets there before anybody else. He did it with Scorpio. He's doing it here in spite of the fact that, he thinks Hal Holbrook's character, the lieutenant, is a joke. Mm-hmm. But he knows something's going on. He's already going, it's somebody who's really good at shooting. I mean, really good at shooting, competitive level, not just because most criminals are not competitive level. Yeah, you get somebody who's,
close range experience.
Yeah, close range experience. You get somebody with a whole lot of kills that is an assassin, has been doing it for years, and for some reason they actually bother to take it seriously. Maybe you get somebody who can do the kind of shooting that was done here.
But, it reminds me of just got to interrupt for a second. One of my favorite Clint movies, Unforgiven, and the whole premises of that movie is how you don't have to act fast, you have to be calm, and and that kind of now that you're just mentioning that, Richard, this kind of reminds me of that in terms of the guy's a cold-hearted assassin, this cop, and he's very skilled. Quote unquote normal person, shooting someone the first time, drop the gun or miss or just panic and that's what that last scene in Unforgiven where Clint Eastwood turns into the classic gunfighter finally in those last few minutes and just guns everyone down, and everyone's too nervous to shoot back, and he just calmly goes through that scene and takes everyone out. So that's kind of what this cop assassin does too. When that first murder scene, he goes up to the union mob boss, and he knows those guys probably have guns, and he just boom, 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 takes them all out pretty darn quickly. So that's why Harry thinks it's a cop with someone with training too. It's not just
the way
random.
He did that.
Well, at first they thought it was.
I was thinking he was a U.S. Marine that had gone law enforcement. I read too far into it, maybe, but I've seen a lot of Marines get super calm when it's go time. And when I mean super calm, I mean it's unnerving to watch them go to work.
Yep.
Well, and he doesn't even have the inclination that it's cops until his partner brought it up. Remember, because he's kind of thinking it's more of a professional assassin hit or whatever, and he doesn't really kind of have a grasp on it yet. But then once we get past the range scene, that's where he sends, he wants those other guys with him on that bus because he did it on purpose. He did not expect there to be a sacrifice, though. That's why I like that scene just before this that we kind of talked about.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He says, yeah.
Where he talks about it, he's like, like that was calculated in the sense that he was doing it because he thought that there'd be less of a chance of anybody getting hurt if those guys were up front, when instead they got somebody called in, whether it was Hal Holbrook or one of the other guys, to warn them, and shit went off the wrong way, not the way it was supposed to. But they also, that's where I was trying to figure out too. I wanted to ask you guys if you thought that those guys knew they were going to sacrifice Tim Matheson at that time, or if it was an accident because it didn't work out the way they had initially planned.
I think it was Hal Holbrook that made the call, and he expected that Harry, being the egotist that he perceived him to be, would be the one at the door, and that the two guys would be his backup. Mm-hmm. And he put them up front, and he was Overwatch. Yes. And that's why Matheson gets the shotgun blast through the door instead of Harry.
Because Matheson's in on all this, obviously, right, guys?
Yeah, obviously.
Matheson's in.
Yeah.
That's the way I took it too, but I wasn't sure by the sacrifice line if it really was meant to be that way, or because I think you're right.
And I think Holbrook is so angry with Harry after that. And it's not because Harry somehow screwed up. It's that Harry got one of his guys killed.
Yeah. And he didn't plan for that to happen. No, obviously you see the button. I want to mention something earlier, which is something that it's one of those things you notice better when you have repeat watches. When he first presents the bullet to Lieutenant Briggs. At first I thought, oh wow, okay, maybe the bullet actually is different. But when you realize on rewatch, you realize no, the bullet wasn't all difference. He was just covering his own ass.
Yeah.
Because he realized that Harry was smart. It was a big, oh shit, he's onto this. I just gotta lie to him and make him, not think it was, anyone connected. So I thought, wow, okay.
Well, that just shows you the power of A, Milius's writing,
yes,
and B, Hal Holbrook being the perfect guy for that role, right? Because that's the beauty of Hal Holbrook. He can play. Being a great character actor, he can play a villain, he can play a comedic role, he can play a straight, he can play it all. So when you've got the red herring called off right away because Harry's basically, poking fun at him all the time and treating him like a joke, as you guys pointed out, we, the audience, see him as a joke. We could never see him as the ringleader of this thing. But it's obvious that he's the ringleader, right? Because in every other movie, it would be telegraphed a million miles away. But Milius was able, between him and Hal, and them choosing Hal to play the role, it was a stroke of brilliance because you don't see it coming, right? And it's so obvious that the other cops are the guys that are in it right away. Like, that's pretty obvious. But, the whole Hal thing comes from out of nowhere.
But not Briggs. Briggs was, you want to talk about a hell of a curveball because, you were right. You think it's those guys and it starts and stops there. Not that there's a whole extra player involved in the game. And he's more involved with the law than the other guys are.
Well, it's a flip because you think it's what's his face? Shit, I just forgot his name. Mitchell Ryan. Yeah, you think it's Mitchell Ryan through most of the movie until he gets killed, right?
McCoy.
Yeah.
And
because even up until the moment he gets killed, the way he even interacts with that other cop for a moment, you're like, oh yeah, they're in on it together. And then you realize, oh shit, he's not, because then he gets shot and killed. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Yep. No, I was gonna say the other great thing about Holbrook's character, he's never shown as being incompetent. He's more of just shown to be maybe a desk person or bureaucrat.
Yeah,
but he's always got that serious demeanor, like you see on the screen here. He's never made out to be a goofball or a moron.
Not
or
a
totally
incompetent, but he's definitely Harry's lesser.
He's just
yeah. Well, he's portrayed as a bureaucrat and not as a street cop because he's never pulled his gun, and he's proud of that. Which is, the mark that's the mark of a bureaucrat who pushes paper. He probably didn't practice any more than he absolutely had to qualify with the revolver. He never drew it. He cleaned it assiduously and he put it away. All the stuff. He is the system that Harry hates. That's really what he is. Except that he decided that the system doesn't work, so I need to change the rules. Harry's decided the system doesn't work, so I need to work slightly outside of it. They have two different approaches to the fact that they recognize.
Well, they even have the scene together near the end here in a little bit here, where they actually have that back and forth. You're just talking about Red Shirt,
right?
Where he even says, he goes, "Where does it end then?" First it's the gangsters and whatnot. I'm paraphrasing, but like he goes, and the next thing you know, you're shooting your neighbor for letting his dog piss on your yard.
And in the documentary, Tom, that you mentioned, one guy said, "You gotta love Dirty Harry because if somebody cuts you off in traffic, there's nothing you could do, but Harry can shoot him." That conversation says Harry wouldn't, but Hal Holbrook would.
Because Harry knows, he understands that there is a lid to things that there should be. He understands, like, when he does the things he does, it's not like he wants to do them.
Well, he even says, he goes, "I don't like the law any more than you do, but until somebody comes up with some better ideas,
I'll stick with this.
I'll stick with this."
Yeah. The thing is that Harry has a line. We see that in this movie very clearly. But his line is not defined by the law, which changes. Every time a new law is passed, the line moves. Harry's like, my line doesn't move. Right and wrong are still right and wrong.
Yes. He's not changing it to just go where the wind blows. There's another line used a little earlier where he says nothing wrong with shit as long as the right people get shot, because he's not doing it just to do it.
I couldn't remember it was this one.
Let me slow this down here.
He's not killing these guys just to kill them. He's doing it because he's resorted to everything else that he could think of, and that's saying a lot for how smart of a cop that he is. That should tell you something. When he's thought of everything that he can, and he's out of options.
Well, he's more of a frontier justice kind of guy, right? Like that's the difference between him and and that's kind of what these movies were about, right? Was we were coming out of the Westerns and coming into the cop era, right? The cop was becoming the new cowboy. And these are really just the old, a new sheriff's come into town to clean up. And as soon as that sheriff's done cleaning up, what do you do with that sheriff? And Dirty Harry is that, right? He's that weapon you need. But like when it's a time of peace, what do you do with him? Right. Well, that's kind of the point of later films. But in these first two films, it was just more about, like, at this point, what we were dealing with politically, we were just coming out of Vietnam here, and by this time this movie come out. But the first film was smack dab in the middle of the first. The first one was smack dab in the middle of Vietnam. But But anyway, that kind of shit into the political and social things that we had going on then.
And this is a theme that comes back in a non-Dirty Harry movie. And it's the one that Nick Weiser mentioned earlier that I have asked for multiple times, Heartbreak Ridge. When the major says to him, they should put you in a glass case and with a sign that says "break only in case of war."
Well, it's funny. I don't know if we'll get to the third film anytime soon. They actually have a line. Like I said, I watched it last night. They actually have a line in there where I'm paraphrasing, where they talk about it, though, about getting rid of the old white guys like Harry.
Yes, they did.
Yes,
because they're like out of, it's like, oh my God, this is back then. This is 50 fucking plus years ago. They're saying this shit.
The more things change, as we said earlier,
the more they stay the same.
Exactly. Because between the whole white man thing, between the guns, the calling the right Nazi, between calling the left the commies, everything is political. This is once again why I know people mentioned in the chat, and I do agree to an extent about the whole Gran Torino is technically the final Dirty Harry movie. I just would like to see it by Harry Callahan by name, because this is once again why the whole him coming out of retirement and acknowledging that you guys had all this time to get shit straightened out and everything is the same. That is the perfect story right there. It's so easy and self-explainable right off the bat, because he's not really dealing with law on a nationwide scale. He's dealing with local neighborhood bullies, basically, in Gran Torino, which I love that movie. Don't get me wrong. I love Gran Torino. I saw a movie right when it came out. Big fan, but it would be so cool for him to be that guy who shows up and just make shit happen and get shit done in 10 days that everyone else couldn't get done for 30, 40 years. Come on. You can't tell me that wouldn't be a good selling point.
I love that
story.
movie.
Yeah.
Well, and the
That's
first
the one
one. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say that's the one with he's got the M1 Garand and he's the vet from the Korean War. Is that Gran Torino? So I'm not mixing up my Eastwood movies. Yeah,
and he's got the I think it's is there Mexican neighbors or are they?
Oh no. They're like Hmong.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, I'm getting mixed
Oriental.
up with. I'm sorry, I was getting mixed up with Cry Macho. That's my fault. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they're
Filipino?
they're a minority from one of the Southeast Asian countries. I don't remember exactly which one. Apologize. But yeah, they were refugees from their own country because when the communists took over, they were the bad guys to the communists, so they had to get out.
And this line up here on the screen here, this is the most fascist line in the movie.
No, this is an actual fascist line, not where they just say it because they're trying to get a rise out of you. And I'd say maybe that's the one thing that's changed is where you're calling someone any of these isses and phobes and isms, because nowadays they get used and abused so hard, it's watered down the impact of those words. And honestly, that's unfortunate because when you say those words, they're supposed to mean something strong, but you have people who use them so freely without meaning because they don't even mean it more than half the time. They're just saying because they want you to defend yourself from those words. They want to get that emotional rise out of you because they're just being disingenuous.
Well, and that's what I was trying to say about the time period, right? Because, look, things are very similar to what they are now. The big difference, I would say, was that movement, a lot of those movements, right or wrong, came out of necessity of there was actual racism. There was actual, women didn't have equal rights. You know, there was a lot of this shit in America. You could almost argue there was a bit of white privilege, but I would never have said that it's to the point where they're trying to pretend it was. Because like I said, here you even got a situation where that's what Dirty Harry is about. The Miranda rights were something that came about just before the first movie came out, right? Like we were getting to the point, and that's what Dirty Harry's the big question it's asking is, have we come to a point where the cops can't even do their jobs anymore because the criminals have more rights than the victims do?
Yes.
That was the question the first movie was asking. Now this movie is saying, oh, you think that, you're saying one side is this and one side is the other. Well, we're going to show you that with, this one. We're going to show you the one side of, actual fascism. And then in the third movie, we get to see the other side of that with the uber communists, with the, the guys that are stealing the weapons and blowing shit up in the town. And while going along with the same time with the feminist movement deal with Tyne Daly's character. So again, these movies did not stop becoming political for a couple of years, and it was all with the movements of the times. The big difference between then and now is they actually had something to fucking say. Now they're just rehashing shit. The more things stay the same. Well, the problem is they shouldn't be the same. We've already gone past this shit. So the only way you could bring Dirty Harry back is almost like a fucking Demolition Man style. And he's really got to comment. I'm serious, because he's really got to comment on how bad things are and how what is mostly peaceful protesting bullshit. Yeah. Right. Because the big difference between then and now is people were actually fucking dying. We actually had people being assassinated. Right. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, JFK. These people were fucking dying on live television. Right. Well, we don't have that kind of shit happening now, per se, outside of maybe certain events that we have seen happen in the last couple summers, but not to that extent to where the cops are acting like fucking, fascist pigs in there. Just, this has just gone way too far. To another extent, I don't want to get to on this show, but
the situation is very similar, but the level of violence is not. The closest we came to the level of violence of the early 70s was basically 2020, when Seattle was under assault every night and Minneapolis St. Paul was burning. The bombings. I read this recently in a review of a book. I haven't bought the book, but I mean, I was, I was 10, 11, 12, 13 years old around this time. Not that I was, so I wasn't, watching the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. I didn't know who the weathermen were until I was out of college. But there were terrorist groups that the next movie is going to feature basically a model of one of them. the Symbionese Liberation Army. Then you had the Weathermen. You had
Bill Ayers. That was Obama.
That was Bill Ayers, the Weathermen. Yeah,
Bill Ayers and and what was his wife's name?
Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn.
Bernadine Dorn. Yeah,
those two Aurora, Illinois pieces of shit.
Yes, and the thing is that they were building bombs to murder large numbers of people, and there were like 1,000 bombs a year for a while.
The Senate office building was bombed.
Yes,
by it was the Weathermen or the in the 70s.
Well, then there was the Puerto Rican independence terrorists, FARC or whatever they were. The bottom line is there were a whole bunch of these. I mean, there weren't just the guys who came over from Europe to hijack airplanes and fly to Cuba,
right,
for vacation. I mean, that's what we remember. But the bombings have gotten quietly written out of history. It's hard to find how many bombings occurred in the United States in the 1970s. And all I'll say is the level of actual deadly political violence was off the fucking charts at this point. And Dirty Harry is showing both sides.
Right. And that was exactly what I was getting at. Yeah.
And here's the chart, which we've shown before, but here, the ramp up. This is all the policies are changing in the 60s and the 70s. Mm-hmm. You've got this crime rate. And then Mayor Dinkins, this is New York City, came in 89, 90 and left in 94. And this is Giuliani. And you give Dinkins a little bit of credit I'll give him some credit for hiring the cops, but the cops despise Mayor Dinkins. I grew up in the suburbs of New York City. but this is the Giuliani within 4 years dropped crime back to the level of the 60s.
Yes.
And then if you look, this is a graph, percentage change in NYC murders. So this, you can see the effects of what happened 18, 19, probably some of that's COVID, but other stuff that's the reaction. We've got, DAs like Alvin Bragg. And
that was Bloomberg. That was Bloomberg. 18, 19, I think was Bloomberg.
Oh, this is 19, right? Yeah, percentage change. Oh, yeah, I should have gone a few more years further, but you're seeing, 19, was Bloomberg still in at 19, or was Bloomberg out? That's not, no, that would have been, that would have been de Blasio.
It might have been de Blasio.
That's probably de Blasio.
And that makes sense.
And COVID, just the change in policy, too. You've got all these Soros DAs, and actually they talk about the DAs in Magnum Force about not prosecuting. And so, of course, crime goes down if you're going to downgrade felonies to a misdemeanor. And you see all these criminals are getting out. There's tons of firearms laws on the books that don't get enforced. So if a felon or someone commits a crime with a gun, there's a lot of laws where they're supposed to get mandatory minimums for committing a crime with a weapon. and Alvin Bragg, I'm just more tuned into the New York City area. A lot of these, he won't even prosecute them. There were cases where felons had a gun, committed a crime, and they're supposed to do a minimum sentence, and they decides not to charge them, and then they get out and do another crime. So that's why I think people are fed up, and of course the murder rate's nothing like it was back in the in the early 90s and the 80s.
But we're seeing a lot of this catch and release crime, right?
Yeah, but it's ramping. Yeah. It's ramping back up. It's ramping back up again. So,
yeah. Didn't they say that there was something? And I know it's not murder, but like the idea that all of the snatch and grabs and all of the robbery, like the shoplifting in New York, has been perpetrated by like the same 300 people that have been caught like 17,000 times.
Yep.
Yeah,
basically something like that. Yeah.
That brings it back to a comment that I've said a lot. Like, it seems like when one of you guys mentioned the whole, like, it feels like the law sometimes work towards more for the criminals than it does the victim. It feels like I see it as like when they have like the rehabs and these overly flexible like jail systems, it almost feels like these prisoners, thugs, whatever you want to call them, they are their customer. They're not a criminal. They're their customer. Because obviously they make money when they're put in a rehabilitation program, put in jail, put in all these things. They need these people. That's why they don't want them off streets, because when you lose them, you lose that customer to make money off of. That's why I feel like to a degree, the criminals are their customers and the victim is not, because that's not where their money's as much of their money is at. So I can't prove that, but you can't tell me that there's some dots that don't seem out of place with that, considering how many more rights that these criminals seem to have than the common man per se. And this scene here, when you're looking at it just from an action perspective, you're thinking, okay, really intense chase scene, anything about to happen. But what matters more, it's what's being said, the banter between these two, because the banter, it's a scene that works for more than one reason. Because it starts off with Henry saying, how you figure I'm pulling this off, Briggs, and then he says, I run the investigation with your record. I can make anything stick. And Callahan, what I can't understand is why you of all people. And Briggs, 100 years ago in the city, people did the same thing. History justified the vigilantes. We're no different. Anyone who threatens the security of the people will be executed. Evil for evil, Harry. Retribution. And Harry goes, that's just fine, but how does murder fit in? When police start becoming their own executioners. Where's it going to end, huh, Briggs? Pretty soon, you'll start executing people for jaywalking and executing people for traffic violations. Then you end up executing your neighbor because his dog pisses on your lawn. And then Briggs, there isn't one man we've killed who didn't deserve what was coming to him. And Harry said, yes, there is. Charlie McCoy. And Briggs, what would you have done? Harry, I would have upheld the law. Briggs, what the hell do you know about the law? You're a great cop, Harry. You had a chance to join the team, but you'd rather stick with the system. And then that's where it closes out to that powerful line. Briggs, I hate the goddamn system, but until someone comes along with some changes that makes sense, I'll stick with it. And then you're about to become extinct. That is a very powerful exchange of words. So yeah, on the surface, you see badass, intense, scene where anything can happen because it's kind of a chase scene, kind of not. But when you look past it, you realize this is this is a hard conversation that has challenging thoughts. And this is once again this is teaching you how to think versus what to think. This is how you have a challenging, discourse where you're having two ideological, clashes happen, say, which is the better way of handling it, rather than saying, this is the only way, and this is the only way that exists. This is what we don't get. We don't have the nuanced conversation hardly anymore. And yes, Harry really is Batman, RJ Godzilla. Yeah, this is, if you're really, I've always say, if you're really that convinced that you have a good argument, you should not be afraid to invite something that challenges yours. And we don't have that nowadays. Nowadays, there's no, we only want you to hear this. If you really have conviction, you should have no problem being able to entertain the other side and have those worlds collide and let people decide for themselves what is the better argument between the two.
That's a great point, Nick. Yeah. You want, and there's a debate here too, at least. So you know what the message is, obviously.
Right there.
But at least you hear both sides. Not that I would ever support the fascist bastard.
No, but I like how it was put.
It's illuminated. Yeah, no, like I know it's illuminated. How both sides of the argument there. So you're seeing what Dirty Harry thinks, and he's his name Dirty Harry, the Dirty Harry, but he's kind of outside the edges. But he's not a fascist SOB. He's going to just take the law entirely into his own hands. He's just going to kind of game the system when he feels it's unjust, but he's not judge, jury, and executioner like a judge.
Well, it's not even really gaming the system, because I think it was put perfectly. His line doesn't change. The only reason he's outside the lines is because the goal lines keep being moved on him. Right.
Moved all the time.
Exactly. Like he says that perfectly with the whole right and wrong business. And you watch Dirty Harry, as much as you want to call him a fascist if you are on a certain side of things, he doesn't kill anybody who didn't, even though Halbrook just said that, we haven't killed anybody who didn't deserve it. No, it's more like the other way around. Dirty Harry has never killed anybody who didn't deserve it. He usually catches them in the act of the crime. Even when it came to the killer in the first film, against his better judgment, he lets the fucker live too many goddamn times.
Yep.
Anyway, you're about to say something there, Redshirt. It sounded like
something. I would like to give a shout out to John Milius, because I just, now that Nick, the way you read that and the way what you drew from that, I just realized we bitch a lot about show don't tell.
Yes.
We complain a lot about people have forgotten in movies, show don't tell. That was exposition. But it was written so well, you don't notice it as exposition. You don't notice it. You don't notice it as John Milius is telling you the difference between these two characters, where Harry is, and why Harry has to deal with them by the end of this film. That's phenomenal. I mean, I wish more people would watch this and learn something.
Well, Milius is a hell of a writer. He has done that. I'm going to add this to some of his great speeches now, because his great speech, of course, the best one ever, is he wrote, most people know, the speech from Jaws. That Clint has the big, huge speech. Of course, you have Conan, where he has the will speech from his father, you know, and where he figures it out, you know, what's the riddle of steel. You know, he figures out it's the will. And then this one here too is like, this is another great Milius is fucking amazing. He is such an undersung guy of that UFC mafia and shit of those guys back in the day of, you know, Lucas, Coppola, Spielberg, De Palma, all those guys. He always got the short end of the stick, if you ask me. And he was one of the most talented of the bunch. I mean, he wrote on Apocalypse Now with George Lucas and all kinds of other shit. I mean, he is just insanely good writer.
Yeah.
It seems so natural.
About the chase through this ship is, does the Callahan know this ship at all? Because he's able to navigate himself around pretty damn well.
That was something I was kind of questioning, because these are like 2 World War II and early Korean War aircraft carriers. These didn't even make it to, like, well, one of the 2 made it overseas. The other
one probably served in Korea, I would imagine.
Wait a minute. Having a lot of relatives in the Navy, having been on a tour of the Teddy Roosevelt, and having asked about it, because it seems like every 15 to 20 feet there is an identifier painted, stenciled on the wall that is a frame number and a compartment number. And it tells you where you are. Port, starboard, towards the bow, towards the stern, what deck, what level, everything. And people who serve on aircraft carriers still get lost.
I can only imagine,
This is the worst labyrinth I can imagine, and that's one thing they don't talk about. Nobody even gets turned around, even for a moment, which is a fucking miracle.
They could be 4 levels deep, and unless you know how to read those little placards, you're not going to know where the hell you're at.
Right.
That's amazing. I forgot about that.
Great point.
It tells you if it's a living space, engineering compartment, or other. And it lets you know all this shit. You get like this little placard. It's about 6 by 2, and it has all that information he just said. So this is
because I've been on some museum tours and things, and I'm like, imagine living on these ships, and and I'm not that great with directions sometimes, and I can only imagine, but. It is a great location, great shoot, and I got to stop it here because there's another big time blooper here. So if you're a motorcycle person, the motorcycles, as I like to call them in this movie, it was a Moto Guzzi V750 with the V like that. So it's Moto Guzzi's famous for that V twin motorcycle, and of course, miraculously. The motorcycle changes to a Triumph for the stunt scenes because it's a much lighter motorcycle. So.
And the Moto Guzzi, Moto Guzzi is supposed to be a Harley Davidson.
I was gonna say, what's funny is how much you can tell, because I got the big screen this time I was watching it, how much of his stunts that Eastwood actually seemed to do in this movie.
Almost all.
You can generally tell it's him, and when it's the other guy,
I mean, it looks like he's riding the motorcycle for
most of it. Yes, I think the jump is the only time it's not him. You can tell.
Yeah,
that's fair. If that's the only time he's not, I can understand. He's the star of the movie.
It looks like him there.
You
right?
got it. Yeah, you definitely got to.
Oh yeah, this is all him. When you see his face, they make sure you can see his face. That's my point. I know how to look. Like I'm sure you guys do too. Is like there you can tell it's a stunt guy.
Oh yeah,
he's a real man. Clint knows how to ride a motorcycle.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, man. No, we have a super chat here. Another one from Darius Moonchausen for $5. Thank you, sir. It says, Harry understands the police still need accountability. Even if he bends the rules, we know who Harry is. And this brings it back to that piece that you're sending me earlier, Tom, about when some people were like accusing. The thing is, they don't acknowledge that when Harry's going out to kill these bad guys, he's doing a situation where someone's life is being threatened
almost every time. Yeah,
like almost every time. He's not doing it. they paint it where he's going out of his way to make it the first resort when it's no, this is not ideal. This is what I had to do when if someone's life's being threatened. That's a last resort thing.
Well, what Milius's point was with that whole speech there with what's next, jaywalkers, and you shoot your neighbor for letting his dog piss on your lawn. Like, that's kind of almost, it's a little hyperbolic, but it's not too much more hyperbolic than what a lot of the critics were kind of trying to claim what Dirty Harry was.
Yes.
Right. And I mean, you even have that, of course, play out with all the bureaucrats and stuff like that within the film too. But when it really boils down to, that's the thing is, no, at the end of the day, you've seen, they especially jazz it up more so in this one and the ones beyond this, where you see Harry deal with more than just criminals that he has to kill. Right. That's the plus. They try to make that out a little bit more because, like, is it this one or it's the next one where he has the guy who's trying to get a free meal by faking a heart attack, and he knows he's done it a few times, so he just goes and he tells him, "Get up, get up, get up," and everybody's like, "What are you doing? This man is dying." He's like, "No, he's not. Get the fuck up, get out of here." And he picks him up by the tie. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, you got the free meal, didn't you?" And he just lets him go. Like, that's. You see him just kind of handle people on a normal everyday basis that aren't like, clearly he's not going to just shoot everybody.
No, he's not mindless about it. And that's he knows he can't just do it free. They're acting like he's like a rampant Florida man. A lot of people act like he's like a rampant Florida man who's careless, aimless, and he's actually the reverse of that. That's once again why he's a good
He's
cop.
clearly not going to shoot some teenagers that are just like shoplifting. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He probably just laugh at them, maybe, and he probably catch
Even
one of them
if
by
they
like
pulled
the
a knife
hood.
on him, he'd probably put him over his knee. But yeah.
And this is where he gets to utter his
Consider
great
this a
line
lesson.
well, no, is a good man. He's got to know his limitations.
Man's got to know his limitations.
Here we go.
Oh, Clint Eastwood. Man,
I love how he said to Milius about writing. He's like, I don't talk good a lot, so don't give me a lot of lines or something like that. I don't remember how he said it.
Man's got to know his limitations.
Milius said it however it went. He's like, I can't talk real well, so don't give me a lot of lines or something like that.
I'm sorry, Clint. I disagree. I think you talk very well, but however, I like your less is more delivery.
Clint is one of the best worst actors ever. I'll say
he doesn't rush that. Yeah.
Okay.
He is never really playing anything other than
Clint
what
Eastwood.
he is.
No, yeah. I agree.
He doesn't deviate too much from that. Like, it's just kind of a pretty straightforward, and that's okay, right? You just kind of find things that he fits in.
I don't disagree. I'm actually right on board with you in that sense that yes, he does do what he does. He does it straight for it. But for me, it works because he's damn good at what he does.
Well, he acts with his eyes and his expressions.
Yes.
I'd compare him to Sean Connery.
Oh, I like Sean Connery.
Sean even talks more, but yeah.
But Connery talks more, and a certain amount of his acting is through his speech and the way he says things. But he's still got that Scottish accent you can cut with a knife.
I would say the ladies like that. So the one I would actually compare him more to, I don't know if you'd agree or not, would be more like Charlie Bronson. Because Charlie would say the same kind of shit. He'd be like, I don't want all these lines. But it was just him because he just didn't want to do it. But like, he was a better actor at the end of the day than Clint Eastwood, I would even argue. That's the scary part. But like, they did do a lot of the similar kind of roles too.
Who is it? Okay, give me a second. I agree. I actually agree with you. I'll throw out also another rather strong silent type actor that is Steve McQueen.
Yes,
Oliver. Okay, the one that almost equals.
But he's probably better than those two as an actor. But yes,
yeah, he's a little better as an actor. But the one that I would probably compare to Eastwood, and he's British, is Oliver Reed.
Okay, I can see that.
Oliver Reed. I've read his autobiography. It's actually a hell of a fun read if you want to watch somebody come completely apart when he's off the job. But Oliver Reed was once asked, why don't you do stage acting? And he's like, because my acting works when a camera appears to be 6 inches from my face and all I need to do is raise one eyebrow. And
Jimmy
that's my
Stewart's
acting.
a lot like that too. Yeah, sorry.
And that's my acting for the day. He says, if I go on stage, I have to act for the people in the 40th row. And I don't know how to do that.
But Jimmy Stewart's thing is he had the stutter, but yeah, sorry.
Yes. But Clint Eastwood, can you imagine Clint Eastwood? Yes, he can give a mean speech, but can you imagine him in a play with that subdued? No. He can't emote. He never
He'd be the
emote.
tree or the guy, third guy on the right. Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah. Yes.
He plays the strong silent types. I like that very well. Yes.
Yes.
Brian Barth asked the question: which genre suits Clint Eastwood Western action movies? My answer personally is yes.
Yeah. He was the bridge, really. I mean, this is the thing. He came in at a time and started doing the spaghetti westerns when the western was dying out. And really the weird thing is you can almost kind of compare the spaghetti westerns to a lot of what Zack Snyder was doing. And I hate giving Snyder any kind of fucking credit, but it was really kind of a deconstruction of the western is what they were doing. But it was really not like that wasn't their intention. Those movies just came off that way because they were the interpretation of what the Italians were seeing in American movies. Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of like, and it was just not their westerns. It was all their movies. So if you see their horror films, all their movies are that, like, they're just interpretations of what they see as American movies. So a lot of times their movies are just weird. But you had Clint and you had him pick certain directors who knew his style. And the thing is that Clint is a much better director than he is an actor, obviously. Mm-hmm. And he knew how to craft this character and the characters around him. And he made sure, he had people that were working with him that were really good. And then the next thing you know, he started doing like Dirty Harry and the cop stuff, and all the other actors that were Western guys, all the action stars, like even John Wayne, were left in the dust. Right? Like to where before that, it used to be John Wayne was the king of Westerns. Well, now all of a sudden John Wayne's like, I need a Dirty Harry, and so are all the other action guys. I mean, that's kind of where, even Charlie Bronson doing Death Wish was kind of that kind of a thing. But
yeah. And then was Wayne's last movie, wasn't it The Shootist? Isn't he playing like a retired, gunslinger? That was Ron Howard's first movie too. I'm trying to remember.
Yes.
But, that archetype is just such a popular character. And Clint, you're right. He's not. He's playing Clint, and a lot of actors that we love. Arnold Schwarzenegger is always playing Arnold Schwarzenegger, basically.
Even when he tries to sound Russian in Red Heat, he's just still Arnold.
he's still Arnold, right? I mean, but you love that, Stallone. Stallone maybe has the most range, ironically, out of some of those big action.
Yeah,
heroes.
well, that's because people pigeonhole Stallone. That's why. Yeah,
he does get pigeonholed because he's good at directing, writing, and acting. He's good at all three.
I think Stallone was good at writing when he started out because he wrote Rocky. I think he's a good director, and I think he was probably the most improved of all of the action heroes as an actor.
Oh yeah. Well, by far and large.
Well, what held Stallone back early on is just his rough looks, right, and his voice. And it was because he had the birth problem that made half of his face paralyzed or whatever.
Yeah.
And he worked through that, but he got he was always getting cast as the third Palooka, and he couldn't even get a role in fucking The Godfather as one of the background guys, like, because he was too Italian.
Yeah,
that's what he says anyway. But like, I don't know. I don't remember if I brought this up on here or if I know I brought it up other places, but Henry Winkler has said that Sylvester Stallone is the Fonz. Like, that's where he got the voice. That's where he got the whole thing.
Do you think he watched the Fonz porn or the Stallone porn in 71?
No, but they were in a movie together. About. Yes, I do. I know you're probably trying to make a joke, but
Italian
I'm sorry.
Stallion.
Yeah. The Italian Stallion, yeah. But no, but they were in the Lords of Flatbush together. And so when Henry went to do Happy Days, because the Fonz was just meant to be a one-off character, he basically just come in and did Stallone, the voice, everything. He's like, it's all Stallone. I copied everything. Everything.
That makes sense, right? Yeah.
So the Fonz is Sylvester Stallone.
No, that lines up. That lines up.
And now that you know that, you'll never be able to see it any other way.
That's right.
Completely. Thank you, Tom.
And Henry Winkler, it's hard to imagine Henry Winkler was one of the tough guy, in America in the 70s back then too, but he pulled that off with his acting chops.
Yeah, because he was the absolute opposite of that. Right?
What is
Henry
he, like 5'3" or something?
Well, not just that. Henry Winkler is closer to like the principal he plays in Scream, right? He was this, or he's more like Ron Howard. In real life.
He's more Ron Howard than Ron Howard.
Ron Howard, yes.
Right. Yeah.
And to talk about actors on the stage, that's him. Like he loved to just go out and do that kind of stuff. He was an actor. Yeah. So he's just like, I'll pull from this guy, and that's the Fonz. Who's the coolest guy I know? Well, Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
He's like the whole attitude, the movements, the jacket, the hair, the voice, everything was Stallone, he said. Yep.
I can see that. And yes, you're right. I'll never unsee it.
Hey, Adrian.
All right, gents.
Cat, Adrian.
Some of you have done your scores. I would like for as many of you that wanted to do your scores, you know how this goes, and show the rookies who have never been here how it's done, and they will catch on because it seems like it's pretty easy and self-explanatory. And meanwhile, I'm going to let Dustin sound off on his thoughts on Magnum Force.
All right. I would have to give this one is strange for me as far as toxicity is concerned because I don't find the movie itself overall very toxic. There's elements in the movie, like things that happen in the movie, I guess, but I don't find the movie itself. I don't know, maybe that doesn't make sense, but because I don't find the movie offensive. I don't find that there's nothing in the movie that really bothers me too much. I think we probably couldn't make it with the political overtones that it has now. Mm-hmm. But as far as the toxicity, I don't think it's probably give it a 5 out of for toxicity. And I'm curious to see what other people will say too. But I think overall, I think I'll give this one an 8.5.
All right. Okay, killer. Awesome. Bruce Lombardo of the Dix Division. Bruce?
My first time I had my microphone.
Okay. I actually thought there's something wrong with me because like, man, that is cold dead air.
He's like, fuck you, side. I'm not answering you.
Painting. It looks very cool.
I've got to say that like this film is probably an 83 out of 100 for me. I really enjoyed it. I've never seen it before. I've heard about it. My friends talk great words about the Dirty Harry films. As far as the plot, the metaphysical, the political side, this movie is a lot deeper than what you'd think you'd see on like the traditional video store shelves. That's why I passed it all the time as a 20-something and as a teenager, because I didn't think it had anything of value to give me. I thought it'd be another Bronson shoot 'em up. No offense. And I love Bronson shoot 'em ups whenever I need to have cathartic joy. It's like a Quake game. But this movie surprised the shit out of me, and I'm rating it high for that reason. As far as toxicity, I don't think it was really that high on toxicity. I'm going to give it a 67. Mm-hmm. And I there's some parts of it that I think do get a little toxic, but this doesn't have the classic line from, I believe, Dirty Harry, where he gives a complete outline of everybody he hates. And you know what I'm talking about. Does a fantastic job with being a solid character, but I didn't see the toxicity, the masculine toxicity that oozes forth from the liberal mouths. And I think this is a great movie.
All right. Awesome. Well stated, Bruce. Tom.
Yeah, I mean, this is arguably one of those sequels that's maybe as good as the first movie, in some ways better, not as good in other ways, but really is a great counterpart to the first movie. I mean, number 2 can be a hard, follow-up, especially to a movie like Dirty Harry that wasn't just a hit at the box office, but was a cultural phenomenon for a lot of the reasons we discussed here tonight on the show. So I got to give this movie as a movie, especially considering the pedigree behind it with Milius. I got to give it like a 9 out of 10, I'd say, for just a score. As far as the toxicity, I got to agree. The toxicity was tamed down a little bit here in compared to the first movie, but it shows us a different kind of toxicity. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of what we've been saying all night is the counterbalance balance to what this is. And in that respect, I mean, I guess the fact that it addresses it almost has to give it some kind of pointage. So I guess I give it like a 6 or maybe a low 7 on the toxicity scale. And it gets, 5 handy Randys just because I fucking said so. I don't know. I couldn't think of any cool, clever rating for this one. So yeah.
No, it's all good, man. Mark.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I love this movie. And it's a thinking man's movie, like we said, not to, make too much fun of, Charles Bronson, because, he's not out there to take me out now. But the first, Death Wish movie, I think is, obviously the best. And in some ways the first Dirty Harry movie is the best. But he's true to his character in this. And yeah, it's not really toxic so much just in terms of today. I think people would consider his whole character toxic and not handle it. So it's kind of almost like, if you watch this back, back in the day, you'd say, oh, well, it's, he's just the cop who's fed up with what's happening and is gonna, not toe the line. And of course, then this movie's an answer to that, kind of thinking about the character in the first movie. And he shows you where, he's not enamored with our system, but till, as he says, until someone fixes it, he's gonna go along with it. So I think I'm giving this movie an A. It's probably give it like a 90, like it's an A minus. Eastwood is fantastic as this character. Holbrook really, I think, cements the movie by doing such a great job with his portrayal, because I don't think if you had as good of an actor as Holbrook, I don't think this movie might have worked as well. So really, really well done job by by the actors to pull this off. And you got some great fun action scenes too, and you got plenty of shooting. And if you want to just look at it that way, there's tons of action, but there's also it makes you think. So that scene in the car, as we talked about, was just so well written. So really enjoy that. So toxicity, yeah, I give it like a 5. I don't think it's really a toxic movie in of itself, but just in today's audiences or critics may be looking at it, consider Dirty Harry a dinosaur, but it's definitely not.
If you ever lean on a line, so help me, I'll flop you lower than whale shit.
Speaking of whale shit, what have you turned up, Briggs?
So it's another classic line from the movie, but looking forward. Eventually, I'm sure we'll get to the other Dirty Harry movies, but maybe Unforgiven. I don't know if Unforgiven would fit in someday, but that's
I'd love to do Unforgiven.
I think we should do Unforgiven. I
Desert's got nothing to do with it.
It's Clint Eastwood alone. Clint Eastwood alone is the toxic oozer in that one.
Death Eye says.
And we haven't done any of the spaghetti westerns, right? Or any of the
and Warrior. We'll probably do a few months of those. Like, obviously it'll be separate. And it won't be 3 months, but we'll definitely have Western months. Much like I want to still do a Chuck Norris month. Of course, there'll be the Rambo month. Of course, this fall we're gonna do Roger Moore Bond as well. So there's gonna be so many like eras and all these
so if you're
runs we're gonna
Clint
do.
fans, stay tuned, I guess, right? Yeah. So we'll get to see more. Yeah, we'll get to see more of Clint. But Soul Assassin, Saint Eastwood Summer, yeah. But just really just love this character. I love how it's not just the shoot 'em up movie, and it makes you think as you're watching it. So I think that's where it gets some extra points.
All right, red shirt.
There it is. All right. Let's talk greatness first. Oh, the story in this as a sequel is amazing. Like I said, all kudos to John Milius for writing an amazing story as a sequel to a very controversial movie that he had to come up with a sequel to. And he decided to, as we've said, flip the script on people like Pauline Kael and left them a bit breathless, not quite sure how to criticize this, because suddenly everybody they absolutely hated were bad guys. And they were trying desperately to put Harry in there, and they couldn't do it. So the story here is really well done. It is, I think, one of the great sequels in movie history. The movie's very thoughtful. It's not an action movie. It's a it is a make you think. And the more times you watch this, and the more times you think about some of the conversations in the movie, especially that one between Holbrook and Clint Eastwood at the end, when Harry and the lieutenant has him at gunpoint, and he's taking him off to the aircraft carrier to or at least taking him off for him to be eliminated. That defines a lot of the message, a lot of the point of the movie. And it's done so well, you don't see it as being lectured, which of course we get so much today in movies. You just get lectured. You just get hit over the head with the message. This is not hitting you over the head with the message. It's inviting you to pay attention so you get it. The movie has got just as much social criticism as the first movie. And it's about, in this case, in many cases, it's about the failure of law enforcement, the failure of the legal system to be a justice system. And I know somebody said to me many, many years ago, just disabuse yourself of the idea that in this country we have a justice system. We do not. We have a legal system which every once in a great while, by accident, dispenses justice. You have, so it defines Harry's character in a way that the first movie didn't. We really get to see where Harry's line is that he won't cross. By example, in this movie, there are people he will take out, and there are people he won't, and the people he will take out are the people who don't care who they take out. They make their own rules as they go along, and he doesn't like that. Because Harry's rules, as I said before, his rules don't change. His line doesn't move. The legal system can move lines all over the place. The goalposts can move. Harry's lines don't move. And when Harry's lines don't conform to the mainstream of legal thought, he gets in trouble, which is most of the time. So Harry's an old school. He's very old-fashioned. He has a very old-fashioned view of what's right and what's wrong, and he intends to enforce it. And he doesn't like it when people try and tell him, well, we have to do this, and we have to do that, and we have to give him all of these opportunities, and we have to do this, and then we have to wait a year and a half. Meanwhile, what happens to the victim? Well, that's not our problem. Well, that's Harry's problem.
Until it becomes your problem again and again and again.
Right.
Which is what brings it back to what I said earlier, where it feels like the criminal is now the customer.
Right.
So,
and I have to say also, the supporting cast in this film, Hal Holbrook has come in for praise. He deserves it. He played an amazing character who appears to be just a bureaucratic non-entity at first. The lieutenant who's just chomping at the bit to get promoted to somewhere. He doesn't seem like he's worth much of anything other than as a paper pusher. The cops, the patrolmen, other character actors, other actors in the movie, they all do a really good job. This isn't just a Harry movie. This is a whole ensemble cast making this movie happen, which is amazing, and it's a lot of fun, and it makes the movie even more satisfying. Okay, now where do I mark this sucker down? Well, I already mentioned the quote satchel charge. That was absurd. That was just a really bad misunderstanding. I wish somebody had asked about it. The motorcycles of indeterminate brand, yeah, that's a problem. Moto Guzzi's don't turn into Triumphs. And besides which, I don't think an American police force has ever ridden on Motor Guzzi's.
They did, but it was very limited, though.
Very limited?
Very limited, yeah.
I would expect it to be either an American company, like either an Indian or a Harley Davidson. But okay, they may have had them.
But it was very limited, though. Yeah,
yeah, but very limited.
Maybe Moto Guzzi paid them money to use the bikes in the movie or something.
They might have. They might have. So those two, and of course, and the folks in the anybody in the chat who has ever been on a ship larger than a destroyer is like, yeah, you don't go wandering around an unlit old aircraft carrier if you've never served on it, because you have no idea where you are within about 30 seconds. So that whole scene is just like, there's an old video game, and I'm talking really old video game before there were even graphic screens, that was text-based. And one of the places you got sent to in this game was a maze. And the way it was described, every time you said move somewhere, was you were in a maze of twisty passages, all alike. Mm-hmm. That's what the inside of that aircraft carrier would look like. So you've got a hell of a job figuring out where you are and how to get out. Those are the only things I really didn't care for. They should have stuck to, easier to manage places and not tried to wander around in the carrier, but that's my opinion. Yes, Darius Munchausen. I'm talking about Zork. I am that old.
Oh, Zork, yeah.
Yes. So finally, with a couple of down marks, I'm going to give this a 9. I think this is one of the best sequels I've ever seen.
Imagine that as your down mark, a 9.
A 9 is my down mark, because otherwise this would be a 10. And I mean, this is my favorite Dirty Harry movie by a lot. So I didn't want to give that away at the beginning. This is my favorite Dirty Harry movie. I'm giving it a 9 because it has its issues. It has a few hiccups, most of which are not from John Milius. I suspect he's pissed about them to this day. For toxicity, I normally rate toxicity by what would people who use the word toxicity unironically think of this movie. This movie really gives them a hard time classifying it as toxic, because all of their favorite villains are there, but they're villains. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give this one a 7 for toxicity.
Okay. Hot damn. I like your red shirt. Well stayed, my friend. I love hearing your closing statements. You always have very elaborative thoughts. And may you have 811 more elaborative thoughts on Toxic Tuesday. And shout out to Magic Poop from the Legion of Memers. And Tom, you're looking really, really dapper there, I must say. Like, you carry that Magnum well. You got a nice coat there.
You look so angry.
I do.
Very angry and pensive.
I'm
gonna get that son bitch.
I look like I'm very pissed at Magic Poop.
It's like somebody stole his pizza.
Ooh, that's the worst.
Oh, that dude. Oh, don't
steal my pizza.
That's a dark road to go down. All right, we're gonna hammer these up. Brian Barth 10-10, Vince Womack overall 8.1, toxicity 7.3. I love how Vince is always so to the decimal with this shit. It's amazing. Soul Assassin, toxicity. It's an Eastwood film, so it's a 10-10 all around punk. Juggalo Deathcock, greatness and toxicity, 1 million out of 10. Just a perfect mix of action and intriguing philosophical debate. Honestly, one of my absolute favorite movies, bar none. Holy damn. That's strong. Long, hard, and strong. TZ Burton, 10 toxic, 10 overall, 10 for our San Fran Oriental ladies. Corbin Dallas, 10 overall, 4 toxic. Channel Surf, 12, extra 2 points because it's Clint. RJ Godzilla. I think the movie's more anti-toxic than anything else. Ooh. The rest of my scores are just a series of 10s. Deleted scenes, overall 9, toxic 7. Mecha J, overall 10, toxicity 8. Radioactive, overall 9, toxic 4. Inverse opinion, toxicity 7. Overall 9. And I'm trying to see if I missed anyone. I think we're good here. Okay, so for me, I'm going to give the movie, I'm going to give it a 9. I'm going to be Vince Womack. I'm going to give it a 9.1 because obviously you got a fantastic story that is filled with challenging thought on a philosophical, social, and political and cultural perspective. You okay there, Tom?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was muted.
Oh, no, you're good, man. You're good. I'm sure it was accidental. Action is great too. The action's definitely ratchet above. You could now they've gotten their feet wet with the first Dirty Harry. They could do a little bit more. They could get a little riskier, and it definitely shows. And obviously, Clint Eastwood is very comfortable in his own skin. Even if this movie is the yang to the yin, he's definitely comfortable in his own skin as Harry Callahan this go around. And oh boy, and what a villain like group twist, all of that. Wow, absolute freaking wow on that. Like, and also I like how you can watch these scenes differently, like from the rewatch. Once again, as I was mentioning earlier with the bullet, when you watch that scene earlier where Callahan's pulling out the bullet and shooting it to Briggs, you're thinking, oh, Briggs just sees it as a bullet that, hey, you got this wrong, Harry. But when you look back in that retrospect, says, oh, no, he was just covering his own grounds. So this movie does benefit from those different angles from rewatches when you notice those little things differently and the build up to the reveal. And the fact that it stuck the landing with that reveal. It stuck the landing. Doing those things when you do a twist like that, it's so easy to divide the audiences with the twist, because those things are what can divide, if not ruin, a movie, especially in the last 10 years. That shit made it. That shit really, like, that shit brought what could have been a home run and turned it into a grand slam. So yeah, I'm going to stand long, hard, and strong on my 9.1. Toxicity, I'm going to go with 744 Magnums out of 10 for Toxicity, because this one was shots firing, and it's the Eastwood greatness, and the fact that he could just talk about having a girl lay in his bed and they're just gonna make sweet love like he's Isaac Hayes and Chef before they're Chef in South Park. Bro, Clint Eastwood's the fucking man. Seriously, he's the fucking man. So it's gonna get a 7 out of 10. And everyone else was just fairly normal people in the world. And Lieutenant Briggs was a tool. He's a really good actor playing tool, but I'm like, you bastard. But that's what makes him good, because he was such a bastard. And guys, thank you, Magic Poop, for the meme. Obviously, appreciate that. Appreciate all the super chats. Saw quite a few new faces in the chat. I hope you liked what you saw with Toxic Tuesday, and I most certainly hope you come back for more, because the toxicity is far from over. And this is what we do here, pretty much at their mead. It's always great, toxic, and hugely amazing. And of course, what else? Oh, to my regulars, thank you for always coming out here and hanging out and doing this with us. Never gets old. We had 90 plus here a few times tonight. That's fucking insane. And we're close to 100, guys. I appreciate all of you. But lastly, but not leastly, I appreciate my panel as well. And I'm going to let them plug their plugs out on the way out, so we can say goodnight to you all for your 2.5 hours of time of hanging out with us and enjoying a moment in time that was called Magnum Force. But before we do, guys, are we going to go Full Metal Jacket? Do we do it? Should we do it? Should we? I'm nudging. I'm nudging. Yeah. Yeah. Should we? Okay. I think
that works, because next week is
what are we
Memorial
doing?
Day. That's Memorial Day weekend too, right? So we should do a
Memorial Day.
Tuesday.
I think it'll be the day after, but yeah,
you'll be the day after. Yeah. But I think, should we go Full Metal Jacket on this one? I'm thinking so.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
I'd only suggest that if you want to do a show right after Memorial Day, I don't think Full Metal Jacket's the right movie to do that.
I was gonna. That's kind of where I was with Red Shirt. I'm like,
I'd actually do Heartbreak Ridge.
Heartbreak Ridge would be a good one, or something military involved that isn't like negative in any way. Yeah,
I'm down for Heartbreak Ridge.
Yeah, let's do that if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all. Let's do Heartbreak Ridge.
And that's Clint, right?
That's Clint Eastwood. So I have open plates. I'll
2
do
for Tuesday.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Heartbreak. You heard it here, folks. You just saw the quick meeting.
You see, this is like us behind the scenes, right? You just got it, right?
All right. Heartbreak.
We were
Ridge it is
unplugged.
next week. FMJ will definitely happen down the line, but right now we're going to continue with our boy Clint Eastwood. All right. And it's going to be great. And yes, Escape from Alcatraz is inevitable. It is inevitable. All right.
Movie.
Don't you worry about that. All right. All right. I'm going to let my boys plug their plugs, and we'll start out with this legend, a man of many voices.
I do voices. Or do the voices do me?
Ooh.
That is the question.
I like turtles.
Tom, it's been good. Thank you as always.
Weed every day.
For smoking weed every day.
You can find me on Midnight's Edge After Dark, of course. Thank you for having me, Nick, and I love Toxic Tuesday. It's a nice decompression. It's nice to have.
I'm thankful for you, Tom.
And I've had Sadie back here behind me the whole time.
Oh, Sadie.
Hey, girl.
Rest easy, Sadie.
She's all upset because she's in the cone of shame. She hates that.
F's in the chat
she's
for
still
respect.
mad at me.
F's in the chats for respects for Sadie. That she recovers well and she does well, man. F's in the chat for Sadie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, she's just very embarrassed about being in the cone of shame, and now Dad just showed her to everybody in the world. She's like probably even more embarrassed.
All right. No, dude. Hey, she'll be all right, man. Give it time. All right. I believe.
Yeah.
I believe. There we go. F's are flooding in. There we go. That's what's up, guys. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Tom. Yes, guys. See Midnight's Edge in the morning. It will be huge, as it always is. I can't wait. And of course, meet on Thursday in the radio. All right, Tom. Now we're gonna transition to Dustin. Tom just turned into Dustin. Look at that.
Grow a beard
Handsome
quick.
man, Tom is. Keto Simple. We do product reviews, all that fun stuff. I just dropped a review today on some cauliflower sandwich slims you can pick up at Costco. Check and see what we think about those. I guess for the next 2 weeks, I'm just doing Toxic Tuesday because Brian's out, and I've been hanging out with him over on his channel and on Pop Culture. But I think that's a 2-week hiatus or something like that until he gets back from holiday. But other than that, yeah. Check out my channel if you like keto food and people being dumb when we're tasting it.
And if you're discovering keto food, I actually argue it's a great gateway because you explained everything very thoroughly on, well, the products and why it could be good for a normie to transition. At least that's what
100%.
I've gotten from it. So, all right. Yes, Tom, we are doing it. And
yeah, baby. We're going to do it all night long.
Dustin, thank you as well, sir, for your time. Always valuable. Have a magical evening, and I will see you soon. Red shirt.
The difference between me and Tom is that I just imitate the voices that I hear in my head.
Those are the scariest of all.
I've never lost an argument yet. That's the day I'm worried about. You know me as a wrench on a lot of channels. I may be on what is now the bootleg MFR Cocktail Roadhouse on Friday nights. I'll probably stop by there this Friday and be back here with bells on for Heartbreak Ridge next Tuesday. Thank you again. As
Make
always,
sure you wear
Nick.
your earrings.
Oh yes, got to wear the earrings. I'll be the Ayatollah of rock and roller.
Richard, always awesome to have you, man. Love your contributions to Toxic Tuesday. Have a great week, sir. And as always, we'll be touched. And one day we will eat pizza together in person, and it will be huge. But until then, Mark D with a C, the man who made this show look as nice and visually stunning and dazzling as always. As always, Mark, your services are second to none.
Thank you. Yep. Glad to put that together for everyone to enjoy. So, I think it does add a lot when we're talking about the movie. So I think it definitely ends up being worth it because, if we're just looking at our ugly mugs or we're talking, it's nice to have that as a backdrop. So thank you for that, everyone. And check out my channel. I did just hit 700 subs, so much appreciated. Thank you. Yeah. So pretty. My kids are always amazed when I tell them I have 700 people subbed to my channel. So, yeah, I really appreciate everyone, and thank you, Lisa. Thank you for that. Yep, and been playing a lot of Fortnite with the gang and Dadman and Lisa, so having fun with that. And we stream that once in a while on my channel and Dadman's channel. I got to show this to Gary from Nerdrotic the other night when he was on with that's my 3D printed Doomsday machine, and Gary got a huge kick out of seeing that. So I'm doing a Patreon, so you can get one of these on through my Patreon. And yeah, just having fun hanging out with everyone on YouTube. So sub to all the guys on the panel, and yeah, this is a great, what a great opportunity that we have to hang out and have so much fun. So much appreciated. And if you like toys and silly sci-fi stuff, and come check out my channel. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark, as always, for your amazing services and for a good fun time hanging out with you, dude. I definitely gotta come back to the Tuesday, Sunday night stuff. I will
Sunday Night Geekery. Yep. Well, yeah, I forgot to mention my shows. Yeah, Sunday Night Geekery. And Gary got a big click. We were joking about clam pizza and the big debate of pineapple. So if you want to learn more about clam pizza, I offered to buy it for everyone, but there are no takers. But yeah, so Sunday Night Geekery, I'm on 10 p.m. Eastern is my main show for the week, and then I stream during the week. Thursday night with Clobbering Times and Raquel on the Clubhouse. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And before we transition over to Bruce, we got another great one from Magic Poop. And guys, you're going to love it. Trust me, it's worth the sticking around for the extra 1 minute longer just for this.
Hey.
Hey. I'm the fans, and like I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna kick the jukebox and it's gonna start playing a song, and you might want to dance.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. Thank you, Magic Poop, once again. Appreciate it. All right, Bruce. What do you got coming up on your side of the aisle?
I've got a Thursday night discussion with some other dungeon masters. We've got about 80 years of gaming behind us, where we discuss various things, but we're actually going to be playing in one of our friends' sandboxes, his Traveler game, on Saturday. If you have nothing else to do on Saturday, swing on by my channel, and there will be a live play. We will be basically using a 3rd edition version of Dungeons & Dragons, and it could go for about 10 hours. Last session we had 2 Saturdays ago was 9.5 hours. And when I'm not running a game, if I'm doing a panel like this, I try to have my hands in the brushes, paints, and minis. And I love this. Is something I bought when I was doing the oil field work, because I knew at some point I'd want to do this hobby. And I've got a lot of work ahead of me. This is my desk of shame. So, and these are the finished ones over here. I'll be varnishing these up tonight and putting them on the shelves in the big room, and they'll be joining about 13,000 other figurines that are in the front room. So that's what I do.
That looks awesome.
Thanks, Mark. I love your work with Clobby, dude.
Oh, thank you. Have a lot of fun there. Yep.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for tonight, my friend.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks for being here. You have a fantastic week. Stay busy, because you are onto some killer shit that you're making there. And until then, once again, folks, Heartbreak Ridge next week. Comic Shop Talk number 99 this Friday. I did a video yesterday talk about the Chuck Dixon joining Rippaverse reaction. Check that out. And of course, you can find me TNT Midnight's Edge After Dark, and I'll be also having a one-on-one on Huge Cast Thursday afternoon with Hojo, who created his own comic book. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. So a lot is on the pipeline. And also for those who are going down, I will have bottle openers and stickers. So whoever attends that will get those courtesy of me. And after those come out, I will be making them part of package deals for memberships. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna raise the bar with membership. So it's gonna be amazing. Like it's gonna be great because I said it is, and you're gonna like it. So, anyways, folks, once again, thanks for supporting Talk to Tuesday. Thanks, Darius, for throwing down the wrenches, all the links. Appreciate the memes from Magic Poop, super chats, newcomers, oldcomers. You're all awesome. But you know what? Even I have to go to bed. I've been at for 19 hours today. And no, I feel good, but I'm sure I'm going to face plant on the freaking bed. And I think it's calling for me. And in order for me to actually do that, I need to have us have an outro on the way out. So good night, everybody.
I'd like to show you something.
The pace when I'm running, I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm
You got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky?
You're still here? It's over. Go home.
Once again, thank you, everyone.
Yes,
Have a great night. Thank you.